welcome to the Dojo Talk Podcast. Please remove them shoes before entry.
Sam Master is here, and you still have not taken off your shoes. Yeah.
Living every day to define man's mission. Looking to the sky for divine transmission. Deaf man's vision makes the blind man listen. Eyes on the prize, this is blind ambition. Thank you.
Welcome to the final edition of the Dojo Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Serial Sensei. If you want to listen to this final episode and episodes on the backlog that span back to 2017, you can listen on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, YouTube, pretty much anywhere podcasts are at. Well, we should be there. You can still follow us on social media if you care to at the Dojo Talk Podcast Facebook page, as well as Instagram page. You can follow me on Twitter and Twitch at Serial Sensei, and you can follow my co-host on Twitter at GC Zeus. And once again, of course, I'm joined with my co-host, Theanticool. What's going on, man?
Not much. Just getting ready to go back to class because it starts on Tuesday for summer, and I hate it, and I don't want to go. And I say go, but it's all online. I don't want to do it. Is basically the point.
That sounds kind of trash.
It's not kind of trash. It's just trash.
But you know, the hopes is that in the end it'll all pay off for something.
It won't. I've already accepted that. I accepted that before I started school.
The world's just gonna collapse. Actually, you know what? No, you know what? You know what's gonna happen? See, the world will collapse, but you'll be the guy with like all the knowledge. You'll help be able to rebuild after we lose everything.
No, the world's just gonna go straight like Mad Max. Or,
oh man!
Everybody's just out driving cars, freaking tomahawking them into buildings and shit. It's gonna be great. There'll still be people fighting for money though, so entertainment will survive.
Oh, if it turns into Mad Max, I'm gonna do. I feel like Mad Max and the California Love video have similarities.
Well, the California Love video is based off of Thunderdome, the third one.
I'm recreating that video one day. I wanted to be in that video really bad as a kid. I wanted to wear the leather suit and the eye patch and drive around in one of those little buggies. So if the world goes to Mad Max, that's what I'm doing. Just let me do that before y'all take me out. Don't stab me before I get to ride around in the buggy with my eye patch. But,
it just occurred to me, they all live in the desert. Where's the leather coming from?
You could say that for every 90s R&B group that had choreography in the desert, and everybody.
They're in this post-apocalyptic world in Mad Max, right? Where the fuck are they getting all this leather?
Somebody had to preserve it, you know. Somebody had a stash of leather suits, and maybe that was the only bit of clothing that was able to survive the apocalypse. The denim got ripped out. The denims are gone, but the leather was tough. The leather was too tough. The world couldn't take it out, so that's all they had. They had to be hot. Jesus Christ. And it's black leather. Oh no, they were dying out there. They probably did not smell good at all, but it looked cool. That's all that matters. But yeah, it's the final episode. And I ain't gonna lie to you guys, I didn't take any notes. We're winging this bad boy. we're just gonna wing it, cause it's what we do. But it's gonna work. It's gonna be great. It almost feels, I ain't gonna say pointless to go over news, because what even is news at this point? Real quick before I get ahead of myself, still got to shout outs to the listeners, man. Thank you guys for listening. If you've ever shared or reposted or just gave us a listen in your free time, man, we greatly appreciate it. So the top cities for the week, the last top cities we'll ever read. And I'm glad number 2 made it back. But number 1, top city of the week, his listenership. New York, New York. Number 1. Number 2,
Hey.
our homies came back. But not from Cairo this time. From Giza, Egypt. I don't know.
Like Giza?
Yeah, Giza.
Wait, the Giza, what you call it?
I guess so. I don't know.
Okay.
Where Cairo at? Cairo ain't even on the list. Y'all ain't even in the top. Cairo, what's going on, man? Cairo ain't even in the top 20. But that's all right, man. Giza holding us down. Giza, Egypt, man, in the building at number 2. Number 3, Mountain View, California. You guys always on the list. Number 4, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Shout outs to you guys. And number 5, I see you sneaking in here. Dublin, Ireland. I see. We ain't talking about Connor this episode, but I see, I see y'all sneaking in here. But
I mean, I have been listening to a whole bunch of IRA songs, so that could just be that. They sense the hatred of the British that's shared by this show.
They felt the energy. But yeah, man, that's the top cities for the week. But appreciate all you guys though, man. It's been a 3-year journey, a 3-year run of this podcast. We appreciate all the listeners, all the Tumblr folk where we originated from, our old stomping ground, which me and the Anticool right before recording were just looking to see how long both of us have been on Tumblr. And,
it's been a decade.
Yeah. It's been a long time. Yeah. I've been on Tumblr, according to them, since July of 2010. I don't know what that says about me or what that says about us, but I don't know. We made it. we made it. We lived through a lot in that Tumblr world. Those are wild times, man. Those were wild times. I might have to just go back to some of those old archive posts and see, like, what was I talking about in like 2011? Like, what was hot in the streets? What was going on back then that I felt the need to even post about? But yeah. Where to start? Well, I guess real quick, the rundown. I mean, you can read the title, so you probably already know what's going to happen. But in case you might not be looking at the title, maybe you just clicked because we're awesome. You just wanted to click and you didn't really see what we were talking about. On this episode, on our final episode, we will be listing and discussing our top 10 favorite fights of all time. And we will also be answering a few questions that we got from some of you guys. I threw out a post yesterday on social media, so we got a couple of responses. So we will get to those also. So that'll be pretty much the bulk of the episode. And the rest of this, I ain't gonna lie, man. Like I said, we just gonna kind of wing it. I didn't really take notes. I got a few things we probably can poke fun at. But we just gonna kind of wing it. But as always, before we start, the Anticool, is there anything on your mind for this week?
Surprisingly, several things, and they're all combat sports related. So that's a change because normally I'm just up here blathering about bullshit. So I found out yesterday that Dennis Seaver and Daniel Weichel fought each other all the way back in 2006. And now I, a man not very well versed in German mixed martial arts, have dubbed it the most important fight in the history of German MMA. And I need to see it.
Did he win?
So, Daniel Weichel won by submission, I think. Proving that he's the superior fighter and the greatest German mixed martial artist of all time. I don't know if that's how that works, but Dennis Seaver's UFC run was long, but not terribly inspiring.
He had a couple of nice spinning back kicks to the body.
His best win is arguably Diego Nunes. maybe Matt Wyman or Spencer Fisher.
But
I don't know.
where is Diego? I feel like he was like
I
a
mean-
thing at one point. Like he was.
He left Nova União because that's why he was a thing. He was on a win streak and he was at Nova União, and he left because he's like, I'm gonna have a contender fight with Kenny Florian, and when that's over, I'm going to fight Jose Aldo for the title. And we were all like, okay, cool, whatever. You're not gonna win. And then he lost to Kenny Florian, and then he lost to Dennis Seaver, and then he lost to Nick Luntz, and then he lost to Patricio Pitbull in Bellator, and he lost to Matt Bassett, and then he was just fucking gone. And he's been traveling around ever since. He came back he fought in Ryzen in 2018. I forgot about that. He lost to Yachi.
I was gonna say he's 4-1 in his last 5. Now competition
He's also a
level.
37-year-old. Yeah, he's also a 37-year-old like fly/lightweight. So featherweight/lightweight. So who knows what that translates to in real life?
He's trying out here.
I mean, like one of the dudes he beat was 1-4. Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta sometimes you gotta pat somebody's pocket and just take their lunch money. You just gotta go for the easy. You gotta go for the easy kill.
Sometimes you just need the paycheck, man. I don't blame him for it. But last time he fought was in 2019, or about a year ago, actually. At Superior Challenge in what I believe is Sweden. Yes. He fought and won the featherweight title there off of some dude, Simon Skold, who was 9-6. Oh, Nico Masaki fought on that card. Or Masaki?
Yeah, no.
The dude who had the competitive fight with Kelvin Gastelum. He beat Dylan Andrews, another UFC vet.
We'll see if I don't know, at Diego's age, I don't think that fight's gonna lead to anywhere. I don't think Bellator or anybody's rushing to
bring him back.
Yeah.
I mean, it might give him another fight in Superior Challenge, which is like half the battle of being a regional dude.
Yeah.
But this is all beside the point of German MMA history needs me to see Daniel Weichel versus Dennis Seaver.
There you go. Putting out SOS. If you out there, you got that footage, you've been holding on to it, now's the time.
The thing that gets me is there might not be any footage because it's illegal in Germany. It was. I don't know if it still is to have MMA broadcast on television.
Ooh. Yeah, somebody had to take a World Star video at least. It didn't make the airways, but somebody got it on their phone. Or we just had to track Daniel Weichel down and just talk to him.
Just be like, hey, bro, do you have that video of you beating up Dennis Seaver? And he'll be like, did that happen? Because it was like 20 years ago at this point.
Depending on how you answer this question, you might be the greatest German mixed martial artist of all time.
Exactly.
There you go.
But the thought of German MMA reminded me about the time the UFC almost signed. The
Uh-oh. Still there?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
It wouldn't be a Dojo Talk episode if we didn't if technical difficulties didn't happen.
So, I don't know if you heard the question, but do you remember Benjamin Brinza?
No.
So he was signed way back in 2013 to fight. Oh my God, this is gonna kill me, because he had just beaten the dude who Wonder Boy knocked out with the question mark kick, Dan Stitchen. He was signed to go fight sometime in September. And then they came out that he was a neo-Nazi, hence the nickname the Hooligan.
Yikes.
Yeah.
He ain't fought since 2014.
Yeah, he promptly got cut from the UFC and went to Fight Nights Global, who I guess happily signed him because they needed somebody for their boy Marif Parayev to fight. And he promptly lost, and then he fought Edward Vartanian, and he promptly lost again. And then, he fell into obscurity. But my question is, in the year 2013, the UFC thought it made good business sense to cut the neo-Nazi. Do you think they would have cut him if they had signed him in 2019?
Not at all. he would have been out there on highlight reels. He'd have been in commercial. They would not have cared. Shoot, during this pandemic, they still would have signed him. Like, we just need people who can fight. Who cares if you hate an entire race of people? Oh no, yeah, they'd have had him out here. Yeah.
I'm glad you agree with me, because I was like, they definitely would have just let him go, and then Dana would have been like the meatiest to chicken shit or something.
Like, listen, whatever this guy does outside of the cage is his own business. He's here to fight. Dana. I was watching a Rampage versus Chuck yesterday. But poor Dana White was going through it on commentary, boy. It hurt me to watch the fight because I didn't want to see Chuck get beat up because Rampage put the things on him. And Dana was on comment. Why did Dana sound like he was like Chuck's personal coach?
Because they're friends.
But he was like I forgot. There were like little things that Chuck would do in the fight, and Dana would be like, "Oh yeah, we had him work on like who is we?" Like,
I mean, like, no, Dana was like involved in Chuck's career. Him and Tito, remember? Like, he started off as their manager.
Yeah, but like, well, I don't think Dana was in the gym yelling instructions. Like, he probably was in the room.
I mean, I like when Chuck was training, he was definitely like, Chuck, do this. And what's his name? I forget his name. Was it Glacier who was Chuck's coach?
I can't remember.
Yeah. He was definitely like that, and then Chuck's coach would just look at him like side-eye him, and he just wouldn't say anything because he's technically the money man, so he'd just be like, okay, whatever.
It's like, Dana, shut up.
we'll do Dana, we're trying to do like professional work here.
Right.
You taught boxer size classes in Boston for like a few years. Relax.
Right. Yeah, get out of here, bro. Boy, he was on commentary he was going through it. Oh, man. That all you got for this week?
I made this post on Tumblr, and the only person who understood where I was coming from was Joey, because he follows boxing. But for some fucking reason, Derek Chisora and Dylan White, who are names you might recognize, they're British heavyweight boxers, have like a ton of like bewildering hype behind them. And the only I'm trying to the only comparison I could make is if people were like hyped to see Ben Rothwell fight for the title, because that's basically who they are. They're more explosive than Ben Rothwell, but otherwise they are big lumbering dudes who all they do is really like take a beating. And it just so happens they are younger than most of the dudes in the division, or have been younger. I think Chisora's pretty old by now, or at least battle worn. And the reason I bring this up is because he was Alexander Usyk, who in my eyes is the most talented big man boxer on the planet right now, and I'm putting him above Fury because I think he's more skilled than Fury. Was supposed to fight Derek Chisora yesterday, but global pandemic and all.
Yeah. Took all our fun.
Yeah, and so no fight. So I was like, okay, that sucks. But there is a large contingent of people across a bunch of different boxing forums and on Twitter and YouTube who were convinced that Chisora, who is like 28-10, if I remember correctly, and has lost some like really, really just abysmal decisions. Like not like they were like bad decisions so much as like they were just like terrible to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chisora's 36. He's old. So he's like 32-9. Like he has lost to some just like not good guys, or at least not like great guys in like recent memory. And like there were a bunch of people convinced that he was going to knock out Usyk in the first round.
Well,
And
I don't know. Some people, I don't know. That's a weird thing. How like fanhood or like I don't know. Like when people reach that point where like the logic
like
just.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying like the fanhood just reached the point where like the logic just like yeah, like it just goes out the window. Like I got my favorite fighters too, but I can acknowledge that if they matched up with a certain somebody, it might not, things might not go so well.
Like, and part of it is like Dylan White is like the guy who did he knock out or did he rock Anthony Joshua in the amateur days? But he fought Anthony Joshua and there was like they built up so much hype around that fight. The White Joshua fight that in the pros. And to his credit, White did manage to rock Joshua, basically for the same reason that Ruiz was able to, knock Joshua out, because Joshua just is want to sit down on his punches and just like when he thinks you're hurt and he has you against the ropes, he's going to pound on you. But like again, the closest like stylistic comparison I could think to is like if Ben Rothwell was like, people are like, Ben Rothwell is going to fucking destroy I don't know, Daniel Cormier.
Yeah.
It's just like,
yeah, no, get that out of here. Yeah, that would be an ugly fight. Yeah. Hey, you guys cut that out. Stop hyping up people who don't deserve it. But I don't know. Maybe that's just their guy. They just they want to will it into existence. They want to pull the I don't know. You got to hold on to something during these times. So they're holding on to the hope.
Maybe, but it just it's weird to me,
Yeah.
What's on your mind, Sensei? Hopefully it's less I don't know, weird than mine, or more weird.
I don't know if it's weird. It kind of is. This is kind of tied to sports, but it's not really a sports. It's tied to sports, but it's. I'll just say it. I don't know what it is. Well, I guess now I can kind of. I know I kind of still can't give it a pass. So I mean, pretty much everybody listening to this, I would assume, is on some kind of lockdown or quarantine, or like even if your state or your area, wherever you are, is reopening, like places still have like certain rules and regulations, all that stuff. And I don't know what it is, but like every time I'm like sitting down and I hear like a police siren go off outside, I'm like, what are y'all doing? Like who's out here in the pandemic getting arrested? Because I've seen a couple of headlines already this week tied to sports. Who was this? Was this people don't tell me this was Ryan Lee. It was Ryan Leaf. I don't know if you guys remember him. Probably one of the, if there was an all-time list of athletes who were bust, he's got to be number 1 or number 2. But he got arrested for domestic battery. There's some other people I saw who got arrested, and I don't know. Like when I'm seeing people getting arrested during the quarantine, I'm like, what? But you're supposed to be home. Like,
I mean, it's domestic battery.
Well, that's just him. But like, there are other people I've seen. I don't have any of them pulled up, but there are other people I've seen who've been getting arrested, and it ain't for stuff they did at home. So I'm like, what are y'all? We all supposed to be home. I mean, I get it. You go out, you take a little walk, or you got to go get your groceries. But I'm like, what? I shouldn't be hearing as many police sirens as I am during lockdown. Like, y'all gotta, we gotta chill out, man. Like, I know some people are antsy to get outside, but come on now. Y'all gotta go sit down, go read a book, go, I don't know, man. Y'all gotta calm down. And why is I know that the ESPN is about to start pumping us these documentaries because the Michael Jordan one did so good, and which I will commend. I since those last 2 episodes wrapped, The Last Dance in whole was a really great docuseries. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, I would highly recommend it. Even if you're not a basketball fan, like it was just entertaining to watch. But do you care about watching a Lance Armstrong documentary?
Only if it's about him juicing.
I mean, I'm assuming that's part of it.
No. I mean, the whole thing is just him juicing.
Oh.
It's like the smashing machine. Except it's Lance Armstrong.
Cause like
he's just pulling needles out of his fucking guts.
Because I'm looking at like we going from Jordan to Lance. Like I don't know, Lance. Don't get me wrong. I understand. I remember when like Lance was like a thing. Like the hype was real. I get it. I do get it, man. Live strong, all that. I remember those days. But I don't know, man. I'm not clamoring for the Lance Armstrong documentary. I don't know, man.
But like there's a whole like I think documenting that entire there are a lot of people who were hurt over Lance's like doping allegations and like the whole Live Strong movement. Like,
he still looks like a douche.
Hey,
like,
I'm
looking at like just the thumbnail. He looks like he's about to lie. I don't even know what he's about to say, but it looks like he is about to tell a bold-faced lie on his camera. I don't know, man.
He looks like a Manning.
He does, yeah. So he looks off.
He has a very punchable face. It's just like
yes.
if we were doing movie casting, you would be like the Snitch or
right.
You'd be the Rat.
Yeah.
Like and like yeah. So
well, I don't know. I that was just a random thing I just been thinking about this week. Like yeah.
I think it's a perfectly good segue in the way that like Michael Jordan was a bully. Lance Armstrong was an even bigger bully. Like the only thing that because Lance Armstrong got to be the face of his sport in a way that Michael Jordan didn't, in that like nobody watches. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody, but if you know what cycling is, you know what it is because of Lance Armstrong. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if you're even remotely familiar with basketball, you probably know at least like 2 or 3 basketball players. Like your Larry Bird, your Magic Johnsons, and your Michael Jordans. Like,
right.
Lance Armstrong got to be little people because like. Fucking name one other cyclist.
Yeah,
gun to your head. Name one other cyclist.
It's got to be somebody out there named Joe Smith. Where you at, Joe? It's got to be one cyclist named Joe Smith out there. Oh man, yeah, I don't know.
I'm looking through the Lance Armstrong tag on Twitter. It's just people being upset, not because there's a Lance Armstrong documentary. Well, some of them are. They're mostly upset because Lance Armstrong's a douchebag. But Ewan McKenna, a sports writer, once upon a time, host of The Black Eye, which is an Irish show, I guess. I don't know. But his tweet, I think, is pretty good about it. Lance Armstrong, not going to watch, and here's why. It was never the drugs. It was what the fucks. It's about the fact he fucks over anyone and everyone to get ahead. Always did, and always will. And yet, there's another opening for him to do it, and to get money in the process. Enough is enough.
Yep. Yeah. So, I don't know. You guys can watch the Lance documentary. I'll be waiting for the Bruce Lee one, though. But y'all have fun with Lance. So I guess moving on. Like I said, I don't really have a lot of news. I didn't write any notes at all. But I don't care. This is the last episode. I'm gonna throw some shots. I don't like poking fun at fights, but I'm pretty sure. Well, maybe some of you didn't see this, and I don't blame you if you didn't. But there was a fight announcement that was made I don't even remember what Fight Night card that is headlining, but for some reason the UFC thought that the world needed a main event between Jessica Ai and Cynthia Calvillo. And
sometimes you just need to fill a date, brother.
And I'm going to be
Because
honest with
you have to make $7 million because that's what ESPN is paying for that card.
Ugh. Get your refund.
Listen,
I'm like, if that's the headliner, what is the undercard looking like?
I am not a huge Cynthia Calvillo fan, but I would be fine with her getting a main event spot if it was like Alexa Grasso. But they went with Jessica Ai.
Yeah, this ain't it, Chief.
Who is basically only watchable when she is getting knocked out by Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah.
A woman who has historically there's like what were the two fights at like bantamweight where she threw like 0 strikes? It was
probably,
like
I was gonna say probably 2 fights I've been trying to erase.
it was the bench fight and the Sarah McMahon fight where she literally basically threw nothing. But I have the card here if you want me to read some of the other fights out to you.
Sure.
So there's no word on what the co-main event is, but I'm gonna start with the fights that I like the best. Ryan Benoit versus Tyson Nam.
Hey,
Solid
Tyson Nam back.
Yeah, solid enough little scrap. Julia Villa versus Carlo Rosa.
Okay.
Andre Fili, Charles Jourdain.
Okay.
Jordan Espinoza, Mark De La Rosa.
Right.
Carl Roberson versus Marvin Vittori.
Okay, they rescheduling.
Yep, and Ariane Lipsky versus Luana Carolina.
Ooh, Lipsky, you better you better not bomb this one, buddy. All right, those are like solid.
Those are solid fight night early prelim openers.
Yeah,
mostly.
yeah. I was trying to think of a way to frame that.
I mean, Andre Fili, Charles Jourdain is a fine fight on like a prelim, but it will probably be like the third fight from the top if the UFC can't find anything better to book. Which, in all fairness, Jourdain's coming off a KO win over, Korean Superboy.
And Philly had that good. He had a good fight with what's his name? Was it Youssef? Was that his last fight?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I mean, and then before that, he was on a pretty good run. So yeah, I'm not mad at that fight at all. That's a real solid matchup.
Carl Roberson versus Marvin Vittori sounds like the worst possible thing.
We're gonna get it.
I think I said that the first time that fight got booked.
We're gonna get it.
I mean, we're gonna get it. And we're gonna like it because the UFC can do whatever the hell they want. You remember at the start of this ESPN deal, and like the UFC was like, the UFC was trying to book Conor McGregor in a non-title fight on ESPN, and ESPN was like, no, our contract says that all the pay-per-view cards that we're gonna do have to have a title fight, and eventually that's why we ended up with the Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal fight for the fake,
BMF title.
The fake badass motherfucker title, right? That's why that fight happened that way, because it was the only way ESPN they could justify it to ESPN, right? How the fuck did we get here?
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw that Jessica Ai and Calvillo were the headline, I was like, you know what? I'm leaving podcasting at a good time. Because this is not the fight. I can't imagine us waking up early Sunday morning.
I mean, you don't have to sell tickets. Does it really matter?
But, like, this... We've covered some, and we don't know what the car is going to look like. But just on paper, Really, just that headliner. That is not a fight that I want to wake up early in the morning to talk about. That is not. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Y'all have fun dissecting that one. I'm I'm gonna pass. Lord. Mm-mm. But that's that fight. It's gonna be a thing. So have fun. Have fun. Enjoy that to the best you can. Quick note before we move on. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about this, but I thought it was interesting to mention. I don't know if you heard about the Joe Rogan Spotify thing, but I just thought this was interesting because, not even just because of Joe Rogan, but like podcasting in general, it's kind of become like a boom. Like podcasts have kind of exploded over these last couple of years. Like It's becoming like the new thing. So I just thought it was interesting. So for anybody who doesn't know, so Joe Rogan's podcast is actually going to be moving to Spotify. He's going to end up being with them exclusively. And the deal, I don't know if the numbers of the deal came out, but he's basically about to be the highest paid podcaster, which makes sense because he pretty much has like probably the biggest podcast on the planet if you're going by numbers. This article's a little long, but from what I understand of the deal, okay, here we go. Rogan announced the deal on May 19th, revealing his show will debut on Spotify in September and become exclusive to the platform some point after that. Terms were not disclosed, but one calculation from 2019 pegged Rogan's revenue from podcast adverts alone between 50 mil and 250 mil, with more coming from YouTube, where his show gets 1 million views in their first 24 hours. So, if he was pulling in that from YouTube, the 50 mil, between 50 and 250, and that's just off of ads from YouTube, his Spotify deal, we'll probably never know the numbers, but those numbers have to be crazy. Whatever they're paying him, he's probably making like some NBA money off of this Spotify deal that he just did. So I don't know. I thought this was just an interesting story to keep tabs on, just because like podcasting is becoming just more of a thing, and I don't know, like this legit could become like, I feel like it's kind of still in a weird stage, like podcasting and not knowing like how much is a stream actually worth. It's still kind of like this fuzzy area, but I don't know. It just feels like podcasting is gonna become like an actual, like this might be like a career path. Like 10 years from now, it might be people like, yo, that's what I want to do for a living. Albeit, I feel like podcasting has also become the equivalent of like back in 2005 when everybody had a mixtape. so I don't know how it's gonna work, but I don't know. I just think things like this are kind of interesting to keep tabs on, because there's certain. I feel like this could mean something down the road as far as like the future of podcasting and what it can become or what it can turn into.
See, what I see is like, do you remember the .com boom?
Yeah.
Like that's what I see right now. I'm like, okay, I don't think Joe Rogan made anywhere near as much money as that article thinks he did. For his YouTube videos, just because like, oh my god, I cannot remember what's his face, the what's the guy who is like the big YouTuber?
Don't get me lying. I don't know many popular YouTubers.
PewDiePie. There we go.
Oh yeah, that
Okay, that dude has 98 million YouTube subscribers and rakes in nearly $8 million in monthly revenue. Wait. And about, so like 1.1 million in advertising.
But
I,
I don't follow him. How much does he put out though?
like video every couple days.
So I was gonna say like Rogan's putting out, and you got to think Rogan's been doing this since God knows how long. Like he's been at this, however, regardless of how you feel about him, he's been in this way before podcasting was like a cool thing to do. Like he's been doing this since like he was literally one of the first I didn't even know what podcast was until I heard him. I had no idea like people did that. Like, oh, we're just gonna sit and listen to people talk for hours on end. So I don't know. I ain't gonna say these are the exact numbers, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's. I'll tell you this: he's probably making a lot more than your favorite MMA fighter for sure. I'll say that. He's pulling probably more than a lot of people who are main eventing these cards. Or if he wasn't before, I'm pretty sure Spotify is probably paying him a pretty good.
I mean, I don't doubt that. But like, I don't see like I see this more as like Netflix paying like $500 million for like Friends for a year.
I mean, yeah. That's pretty much what it is. Like who knows if he's actually going to stay there? Because I think he made the announcement on his podcast and he said he didn't say how many years. He didn't go in specifics, but he just said multi-year. So I'm gonna guess it's probably between 2 to 3. I'm guessing that your first contract, you probably don't want to be stuck in there for too long. So he probably did like a 2 to 3 year. But I don't know. I just thought this was interesting, something to keep tabs on is technology and like the way we just consume entertainment changes. Just keep an eye on that. But we've been rambling for about 40 minutes. I think it's time to get into the thick of things. So like I said, for this episode, 40 minutes later, we are going to do our top 10 favorite fights of all time, and then also fan and listener questions. I want to do the questions first, since people took their time out to send some in. So we'll do the questions first, and then we'll do our top 10 fights. So let me pull up the questions, and thank you guys for the people who did send in questions. Definitely appreciate you. All right, so we got 2 questions from Twitter and 2 from Tumblr. Well, technically it's more than that amount of questions, but just that amount of people. But all right, so I'm gonna throw you off guard because you didn't see this Twitter one. I don't know, maybe you did, but probably did. It got it this morning. But starting first, Twitter question at Fuck Yugi. That's the name. FUUCKUY. Let me start that over. FUUCKYUGI. His first question is, who do you think Tony Ferguson should fight next? I'll let you kick this one off.
Nobody for like 6-7 months, maybe a year. So like by the time I want Tony Ferguson to come back, like the landscape of the lightweight division should change so much that it could be literally anybody. If I was the UFC, I'd probably book him against somebody who they think has talent, who's like at the bottom end of the top 10. See, that's the problem. Like, there's such little turnover with a lot of these top 10s because like the guys in them refuse to fight anybody who isn't ranked above them,
right?
Or who's not on a streak that they think will get them to a title shot. So you have like Donald Cerrone, who's gone from fighting Tony Ferguson to Justin Gaethje to Conor McGregor to Anthony Pettis, who realistically should be fighting more people around like the skill level Alexander Hernandez or Drew Dober, for being real. But when Tony comes back, like a fight with CDF, Carlos Diego Ferreira or Islam Makhachev, Like those are the guys I would want to see him booked against. A Beneil Dariush, somebody like that. Realistically, what's probably going to happen is they're going to have a fight like, I don't know, Dustin Poirier or Conor McGregor, or they're going to try to book that fight. No, I'd be cool with him fighting Charles Oliveira, but again, I don't know when Tony's going to actually be good to go again. Like that was a life-beating ass fight, or a life-changing ass beating he took.
Yeah, that's one of them ones you should probably go chill out for. Go relax. go relax for a little bit.
Yeah, like remember not McGregor, Roy McDonald and his fight with Robbie Lawler, and he came back like 11 months later, and he still came back too early.
Yeah, he was never the same after that.
Yeah,
never the same after that. And then you gotta think like the way Tony fights too. Like, yeah, you hope that doesn't happen to him, but it's possible. It could be that because that was one of those kind of beatings that if you come back too soon, especially depending on who against a certain person, we don't want to see the downside, but that was one of them kind of beatings that it could happen. Actually, Do Bronx was my first answer. That was the first person I thought of. And kind of like you, like I don't know his timetable when he'll come back, but you know, I wouldn't mind the Do Bronx fight. For Do Bronx, it'd probably be the biggest name that he's fought. He's been on a big streak. He deserves a big name. I think for Tony, it's a fight that he can win, but it's still against. Well, like I said, even though Do Bronx is ranked below him, but still a fight that I think if he wins, it shows like I'm still up here. Like, yeah, I lost. I took a beating, but not just any old body can come up here and beat me still. Like y'all still gotta work y'all way up here. I'm up here with the Sharks. Y'all gotta earn this spot. So the Oliveira fight was actually the first fight that I thought of. I wouldn't be mad at the Conor fight either, actually. I didn't really even think of that until you said it. But I think those are the two best options. Like if you want to do the money fight, I guess if you call it that, do the Conor.
I see it as cashing out on Tony. Really, if I'm his management, like I am not getting him because I think we talked about this after the fight, but like Justin Gaethje was the first like really big puncher Tony Ferguson has fought in like a while.
Right.
Like Anthony Pettis is like a solid enough puncher. You know, we saw him knock out Wonder Boy off a Superman punch, but like I would not qualify him as like a puncher. He is a dynamic kicker more than anything. You know, like Tony was getting hurt by everybody going into the Gaethje fight. Pettis hurt him. Cerrone hurt him. Like if Pettis didn't break his hand in that fight, like he was, I'm not gonna say he was winning, but like he had a lot of the momentum in it. Like I don't come back to a Conor or Dustin Poirier fight is what I'm saying, because those are the next two biggest punchers in the division. And it just seems like not worth it if you're trying to get back to title shot.
I don't know. I look at it as high risk, high reward. If you beat Conor, they gotta throw you right back up there. Question is if you're ready to really go back up there at this time. But you know, if you want to cash out, you want to do the money fight from Tony's perspective and the UFC. And for the UFC, you know, Ferguson coming off of a loss, it might be a little vulnerable. You know, I mean, we won't know until we see him, but I feel like that's, I don't say a win-win, but from both of their perspectives, I feel like it could work.
The next time we see Tony Ferguson, unless by, you know, I don't know, I guess I don't know where his return tape, his return date might be, but like, he might be 37 years old by then.
Yeah, that is true.
Like, he is not young, and he has been hurt pretty often in recent years, like, to the point where he's only fighting, like, once a year. So, like, I don't, like, I just, like, there's risk reward, and then there's just, like, it's just not the smart thing to do to me. To put your fighter in that position. Like, yeah, sure. Like, there's high risk, high reward for, like, a McGregor fight, but, like, you're talking about doing some serious lasting damage to Tony. A guy who has, like, actual mental issues.
Yeah. It's not an easy spot. And then neither of these fights are going to be easy. Obviously, the Oliveira one would. I don't even know if it's right to call that the easier fight, because like neither of these fights would be a cakewalk. But I guess I'm also looking at it too. Like, if say he comes back at 37, time is no longer on your side.
So if you're on his side for a minute.
Yeah. So if you're realistically looking to.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're realistically looking to try to make one last, and it's gonna be a tragedy if this man should have been in a title, whatever. Well, whatever. But if you're trying to make that one last push before Father Time, the time in the little sand clock runs out, you might have to do the Conor fight, because that's big enough to kind of put you right back up there. Because I don't know if Du Bronx does it. I like the Du Bronx fight better. I feel like it's, I don't say safer, but coming off of a beating like that, I like the Du Bronx fight a little better. But
we also have to think about it from this perspective of, what if Justin Gaethje wins? Like, he has the fight with Khabib sometime in, like, the fall, and he wins.
Yeah, that changes things too.
Like, I'm sorry, like, it would be, like, promotionally irresponsible for the UFC to put Tony Ferguson in another fight with Justin Gaethje.
Well, I was gonna say, if Gaethje wins, we don't get Tony Conor. They're gonna go Conor Gaethje.
Yeah.
So that throws Conor out the picture. So then you could do Du Bronx. I feel like the Du Bronx fight just makes the most sense. You can do the Conor fight, but I feel like the Conor fight might depend. There are other variables, like other things might have to shake out if you want to do the Conor fight. But if you want to go for a sure shot, like, we can make this, and it's not really hinging on anything else other than your timetable of when you'll return, I say do the Du Bronx fight. But moving on to also his second question. I'm gonna try to understand this. He put, if you could add one rule somewhat, what would it be? So I'm assuming he's just asking just a rule in, I guess, MMA or combat sports in general. I feel like a couple of months ago I had, like, a definite answer for this. I don't know, man. I'm gonna go with the well, would I change the grounded opponent? I might change that one. Cause did they amend that rule, or does it still, like, not make sense? Don't they do, like, the two-hand? I forgot how that even works now.
So it's not unified, but the basics of it is, if you have, like, two hands down, and you have your 2 feet on the ground, you're not grounded. But if you have, like, a knee or something, you're grounded.
No, I'm changing that, man. Everybody's getting hit. Protect your neck. That's what I'm changing, man. I'm tired of that two-hand touch. I'm on the ground. I'm grounded. I'm not grounded. No, I don't care about that, man. That's the rule I'm changing. You can be hit at any point. Thug life. Deal with it.
I don't know. I'm with you on that, but I'm trying to think of what else needs to be changed. I think I'd let fighters grab the cage. Because why not? You know, why not? I want to see somebody have somebody who's been taken down, just like try to climb their way up the cage to get back to their feet.
I was gonna say you gonna have somebody losing a toe out here.
Oh yeah, no, fingers like it's risk reward. It's fighting. Like if we want, I mean, if we want to be real, the UFC prides itself on being as close to a real fight as possible. So, I also think they should come to the fight drunk and or high.
Well,
So,
I'm pretty sure some people have came high. Drunk, I don't know. High, I'm positive there have been some people faded.
absolutely. Yeah, like there's a reason you have a bunch of Diaz wins that have been overturned.
Right.
But like, I'm not talking about like weed though. I'm talking about like they snorted a whole fucking rail in the back before making the walk.
What do you think John's whole title run has been? Prior to Daniel Cormier. Well, up to the first fight.
I think Glover would have beat John Jones if he was also on cocaine. That is my stance.
There we go. I want grounded opponents to not be a thing anymore. Anti-cool wants people sniffing lines before fights. There we go. I like it.
Drugs are the best PED. I'm just saying.
Hey, man. It's their body. We're just here for the entertainment.
It's their body, and we're gonna force them to do drugs. See, we got the barbecue fight league where, like, you know, guys have to like slather themselves in barbecue sauce.
Nah, that
is a rule we came up with.
No, like, listen, I know the barbecue fight league don't have standards, but nah, I can't have a bunch of 45-year-old white guys slapping themselves in barbecue sauce. You're wasting the sweet baby rays, man. Maybe one fight a card. Like, we'll have one. Well, really, the whole show's a freak fight. But we'll have one freak fight in the card where it's, you know, the barbecue sauce match. You know, in that fight, if you win, you get the golden grill and you get like some exclusive barbecue fight league barbecue sauce that we'll have to make. Tim Boach, man, get at us, man. You've been a prototype for this fight league we've been trying to come up with. You are the perfect dad to participate.
Our other fight league would just be back alley brawls, and it's just dudes fighting for like on drugs.
Yeah, and World Star already got that covered. So.
It's instead of like martial arts styles, it's just different types of drugs.
That would be a wild matchup. You got the guy on LSD just going against like the regular weed head, and we see who. Oh man. That might be the undercard of the barbecue fight league. Like your crackhead uncle, he can come. We have a place for him. He's been kicked out of all the other barbecues, but we got him covered on this one.
You got the crackhead versus the dude who just dropped like a whole thing of acid.
We're gonna get raided so quick.
We're trying to find out what is the best performance-enhancing drug.
The SWAT team is gonna kick down doors to an outside event. Like there are no doors.
Well, that's why we're holding it on the pirate boat.
Oh, yeah, okay, there we go.
We're going full Dada 5000 on this fucking
so we can get the fights off because it's gonna take time for them to get out to the boat. There we go.
These people don't have jobs.
There we go. We got this covered. Oh man, that's funny. All right. Thank you, Yugi, for those questions. Appreciate it, good sir. Moving on to Tumblr, we got Naughty by Nature, KNOTTY by Nature. Appreciate
Jersey
you.
was good.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. When those dudes ran for like city council in Newark?
Who?
I don't remember which one did it.
Oh, you're talking about Naughty by Nature, like literally Naughty by Nature?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it couldn't have been Tretch.
I'm 100% sure it was not Tretch.
Yeah, I'm about to say Tretch doesn't strike me as a public office kind of guy. For you guys out there, listen to Feel Me Flow today. It's a good Naughty by Tretch was killing it. That was a good song. It's a great song. But Naughty by Nature asked, his first question, he's got two of them. First question is, which new/young fighters are you guys keeping an eye on in terms of talent and have a good chance at success in the future?
It's really funny. Oh, excuse me. Because like, if you had asked me that question like 2 years ago, I probably would have like a whole list of dudes for you. But honestly, it's just hard enough keeping up with like all the fighters that like are actually ranked right now that I can't think of somebody like down the rankings. So I'd be like, okay, you keep an eye on this dude because he's about to blow up. Like that person would have been hack harassed, I guess. But you know, we're gonna have to see him rebuild for a little bit. And I think this goes to something. I read an article on the fight site yesterday, and Lord, no, I forgot. I think it was called the UFC and the meat packing plant. Like it just takes so much more to get a title shot nowadays. Like Drew Dober is 6 of 7 in his last 7 fights. He's won 6. And he's not even like
sniffing. He's not even sniffing a title shot.
Yeah, and like the article brought up Vicente Luque, right? Luque went on this like wild ass run where he was like fighting. He was like, how many wins in a row did he have? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wins in a row. Then he got Stephen Thompson, and then they rebooked him against Nico Price. It's just like, what are we even doing?
All right.
Like they're like a lot of these guys are just gonna burn out way before they ever get a title shot. Which kind of what happened to Tony Ferguson. If you think about it, like
yeah, he went on a run, an insane run, and never got his chance.
Like remember back in the day when John Fitch won like 7 fights in a row, and like everybody's like, well, he needs to get a title shot. Like there are a lot of guys in the UFC who are like 5-1, 8-1, 6-2, who are just nowhere near like a title shot or contention, or even some of them are even in the top fucking 15. Like how many lightweights are like 6-1 or 5-0 or something like that?
Right.
And they're just not getting top quality fights. So like, and I'm trying to bring this back to Die by Nature's point or question. It's just like I don't like. There are a lot of like really young talented fighters. Like I like Song Yadong. I like who I guess is ranked now. So I guess like that's less of what he's like getting at.
I mean, technically though, he's still mad young though. Dude's 22.
Yeah, apparently. There's fuck, what's her name? Crap. I am terrible at names. Like I like Alexa Grasso. I like why am I forgetting Viviane Araujo, who's not young but like young in her career. She's only had 10 fights. I like Amanda Ribas. I'm just going through the list right now. I like Macy Chiasson. Give her a few more years. I like a bunch of the flyweights who I've seen recently. I like that David Vorak guy who beat Bruno Gustavo. Like the point being, there's a lot of dudes, but like I don't know which one of these guys will be around like 5 years from now. It won't be just completely freaking shot.
Right. I've got a couple. I think for all of mine, I don't know really what their ceilings are, but I'll just say like they're people who I think they're probably years away from being, at their peak. But definitely just fighters that I'm gonna keep an eye on because I think they can go somewhere. I just gotta see it. But actually, Amanda Ribas was the first person I thought of. 26 years old, one of the newer faces we've seen in the UFC as of late. All of her fights are just like really fun to watch. Like she's really entertaining. I think she has a good skill set. She can really pour it on people. Like I said, I don't know what her ceiling is, but I'm enjoying what I'm seeing so far, and I'm hoping that it can turn into something more. Albeit she's in, strawweight division is really really tough, especially when you start getting to the top of that division. But I'm keeping an eye on her. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from her. I'm gonna kind of cheat and go to somebody who I had on our award show for when we did our Rookie of the Year segment. I'm gonna go to my guy from KSW. Probably butchering his name wrong. Saladin Parnassi. I don't know if I'm saying that right. He's KSW's interim. I don't know if he's undisputed or interim like featherweight champ. He is currently 14-0-1, 22 years old. I think he has a lot of raw talent. I still think he needs a lot of work, but he has a lot of raw talent that I think if he just continues to develop, that he could be something pretty good in the future, a few years down the line. He is currently, undefeated. Last fight was against a gentleman named Ivan Buchinger in December 2019. Really athletic. It looks like the physical tools are there, but he just needs to put it together. I feel like some of the fights I've seen from him, he can kind of get by on his athleticism. Not saying that he doesn't have skill, but I think he still needs to develop an overall game. But at 22, I think he has a pretty high upside if he can just keep developing. So I have my eye on him. And I'll take it to Glory, a guy who I was rooting for on one of the last Glory cards I watched a while back. He ended up losing, but Abraham Vidales in Glory, who I think also I want to say is a featherweight. He was on a nice little run before he ran into, was it Adam Chuck? I think was his last fight, and he got kind of beat up in that one. But albeit, man, I think Adam Chuck, former champion, and that was Vidales' first big step up in competition. But I like Vidales' game from what I saw from him. But like I said, he's still really young. I don't know exactly what his age is. I mean, his Glory record, he's only 4-1. So it might be some time before we see him fully come in. He's 4-1 in Glory and 15-1 overall. Have him ranked at number 8 at featherweight. But I think he's a really, really talented kickboxer, but still really young, so it might be a while but before we see him turn into something. Hopefully he does. But have my eye on him too. So those are my 3. Amanda Ribas, Saladin Parnassi from KSW, and Abraham Vidales would be my picks. And then Naughty by Nature's second question was, what was your most anticipated fight that was canceled or a dream matchup you hoped for? I mean, Tony Habib was the first thing I thought of. That was the matchup. That was it. That was the one. And we probably ain't gonna get it now, or if we do get it, it kind of doesn't hold the same
weight.
It's not gonna hit the same now. If we get it, it's not gonna hit the same.
We were apparently supposed to get Jones for Stipe before Jones got tested positive for whatever that fucking drug was.
Yeah.
There's
still other fights to anticipate. We've mentioned, fights that would bring me out of podcast retirement. Takaru and Tenshin Nasukawa always gonna be on the list as a anticipated / dream matchup that I don't know if it'll ever happen, but we can dream. Um, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford still on the list. A little more hopeful that one will happen, but don't know. Just don't know. You know what I was actually thinking of? A fight that I wanted to see for a long time. That not only now don't know if I want to see it anymore, but it probably won't happen because now they're like 3 weight classes apart. Remember when Aldo versus Pettis was supposed to be like a thing?
Yeah.
And now Pettis is. Now Aldo is at bantamweight. So
He's like, I could definitely if he could make the cut to bantamweight, I don't. That's so dumb. That's so dumb.
yeah,
I'm so angry about that.
That was a fight for me that and you know what? If by some miracle it still happened, I would definitely watch. It would not hold the same weight as it would have a few years ago, but there would be
That
a
was
small
fight
part
that
of
was
me.
supposed to happen. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, like that.
And
If it still happened, I would still watch it.
instead, we got Bendo Pettis too,
Yeah.
which was
Yeah,
fine
man.
because it gave us that nice little moment. Anthony Pettis winning in his hometown and then getting to bring his title the night he won it to his father's grave, which is like
Yeah.
an all-time MMA moment. But still, yeah, you wish that
And he
fight had
subbed
happened.
Bendo, who never gets submitted.
Yeah, just
So, yeah.
storybook, and it finished for that one.
No, I was trying to think real quick. Does Bellator have any fights that I would really like to see? I feel like they do in that tournament, and I can't think of.
The one matchup I'd want to see that I think we'll eventually get is AJ McKee Jr. versus Patricio Pitbull. But like, especially in the early days when like Joe Warren and Soto, well, I guess it'd be mostly Warren. Those guys were like division hopping at the beginning, so like we got a lot of those like, and Pat Curran too, who fought Eddie Alvarez or whatever. Like a lot of those guys jumped divisions. Like Patricio went up, Pat Curran went down from 155. Rory went up to 170, and Douglas Lima is apparently about to do the same, trying to fight fucking Gary Musasi, which is like all types of just like this straight up wrong idea. Ryan Bader is like a 2 division champ. Like there's no fights in Bellator where I'm like that fight won't happen, but I really wish it would. It's a lot of fights that are just like going to eventually probably happen because Bellator is like such a small roster in terms like for the volume of cards they put out. They want to put out like 30 cards by the end of the year. It's a fight that I wish had happened and never did, and everybody remembers Silva versus GSP. I feel like we don't talk enough about Cruz versus Aldo.
Yep.
That's the fight I really would have wanted to see.
Oh man, you just made me think of some other fights. Rest in peace. We never got to see Kid Yamamoto versus Benavidez. Back when that was supposed to be a thing.
Back when that could have been like one of the best fights ever.
Yeah, that was back when Prime Kid and would you say that was still Prime Joe? I don't know if that was a Prime Joe, but he was still like really, really good.
Back at the height of his like physical prowess, like he has fallen off physically, but I think he's better than he's ever been technically.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a great fight.
I need you to help me jug my memory. Wasn't there somebody that we wanted to see Petrosian fight that one just recently signed?
Cynthia.
Yeah. Put that on the list too.
A rematch with Buakaw. I think there's a whole bunch of fights. Like boxing history is nothing but mega fights that we wish happened, but that didn't. You know what I mean? So, like, yeah.
It's gonna get me sad. all the fights we want to see that will probably never that'll never happen. But that was a good list. I think we gave some pretty good ones. Oh, you know what? One last one. I'm not gonna say it's a dream matchup, but just because he floated it out there, I wouldn't mind seeing it. Patricio Pitbull versus Jose Aldo.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, he wants to see who's the undisputed king of Brazil. Hey, have at it. I'm all for it.
That would have been really
But
good. Remember when Aldo was supposed to retire?
Right, right. Here we are, like four fights later. The man's still out here. Told you guys, man. MMA retirements are never real.
I just thought of. I'm sorry to go back to his first question, but I just thought of somebody who's not quite young, but somebody who I really enjoy fighting and who probably has like a longish career ahead of him at light heavyweight.
Huh.
Daun Jung.
Is that the light heavyweight dude?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, okay. I thought I remembered that name.
Yeah, he's the dude who knocked out Mike Rodriguez and what was the other guy's name? Khadiz Ibrahimov. He submitted him with that standing guillotine. It was more like a bulldog choke, if I remember correctly.
One of the few 205ers who's not 80 years old.
Well, he's 32.
Yeah, but in heavyweight, that's like 21.
Light heavyweight.
The light heavyweight.
Yeah, but no, like, I don't know if he's definitely not probably ever going to be champion because it doesn't seem like he has that, like, athletic, like, you know, drive to be one. But, like, I think he's going to be, like, a solid top 15, top 10 light heavyweight. And if you stick around long enough, you probably get a title shot anyway, so.
You just got to outlive everybody.
Yeah.
Outlive, don't get injured too much. You'll be all right. But thank you, Naughty by Nature. Appreciate that. And our last batch of questions comes from the homie, Joey of the Sports Sound Off. He's got a couple. This first one is a doozy, so he directed this one at me. He's asking, what's one thing you wish you knew before you started the podcast? And I ain't gonna lie, I've been staring at this question all day, and I'm like, this could be a whole, this could be a whole episode in itself. This is a hard question. One thing I wish I knew before I started the podcast.
How long episodes were going to be?
Yeah, that's one thing. I wish I knew how long the episodes were gonna be. I wish I think my answers to this question is not so much what I wish I knew, but things I wish I would have approached different. Like, I wish earlier I would have kind of tied to how long the episodes were. I wish I would have formatted things better, because I think that could have helped a lot earlier. But obviously, you know, hindsight 50-50. Back in the day, we were just nobody knows what they're doing when they first start a podcast. You're just winging it. Like, you're just learning as you go. I wish I would have gotten to a format a little quicker that we could have stuck with. I think that just having early structure would have helped a lot. I wish I would have understood social media a bit better in terms of, like, promotion. I think that could have helped a little bit. I don't know, man. This could be a while. this could be a while. What else do I wish I would have known? I don't know. I could spend all day trying to figure this out. But no, I would definitely say structure. Like, really having a structure and a format to the show. You know what? I wish I would have knew, and I guess it's kind of related to structure somewhat. I wish I would have known that it's okay to not cover everything. Because I think, like, when we first started, I really wanted to cover everything. Like, like every single fight of every good body getting beat up. I didn't care what promotion it was. You know, if it was fun and it happened, I wanted to talk about it. But I wish I would have kind of dialed back on that and be like, you know what, you don't have to cover everything. It's okay to just kind of pick the highlights. And part of it was I wanted to give everybody their just due. But that's impossible. You can't give everybody. Like, you can't
Also,
shine
not
a
even
light on
sir.
that too. Yeah,
right.
definitely. Yeah, there's some fights we could have easily probably just not talked about
I
on
feel
this
like
podcast.
I feel like there's a good percentage of fights, especially like the prelims, where like, yeah, neither one of us really remembers what happened in this fight, and then we'll talk about the fight for 10 minutes anyway.
Right. Yeah. Overall structure and format, and realizing that it's okay to not talk about some things. You don't have to cover everything. But that's a deep question that could go in a lot of different directions. But I'll just keep it at that for now. All right. So his next batch of questions we can both answer. His next question was favorite moment on the Dojo Talk podcast.
There's so many. Like that time Stokes ordered Taco Bell while on
Oh man, I forgot about that. Stokes ordering Taco Bell. I don't know if it was the one time, but when we finally got Stokes and Joey to both be on at the same time, and I got a chance to edit the Stone Cold music, I enjoyed that. That was a good time.
I forgot. There was just a period of time where Stokes and Joey were just sniping at each other.
Right. Those were good times. The Conor Habib thing is always gonna be a classic. Like,
We all just got on and started laughing.
right. we stayed up recording till like 2-3 in the morning. Like, what were we doing? We were on such an MMA high because that night was just craziness. That's definitely a standout. That might be like a top 2 moment that like we all just agreed like madmen, like, no, we're gonna talk about this right now. Yeah, I know it's like midnight, but whatever. Yeah, we just did it. That was fun. The Jose Shorty Torres interview, definitely a top moment. Special thanks to Stokes for pulling that off. I still remember like the day he told me like, oh yeah, I got him to agree to an interview. Like he called me on my way home. I think I was driving home from work. And he was like, yeah, I got him to agree to do an interview. I was like, oh, I guess we just got to do it then. Like, to tell him yes. Like, we'll figure out the details later. But no, that was definitely a good moment, man. That was fun, man. I was really nervous for that. And after we did it, I was like, man, that turned out really good. Like, he was a really good guest. He had really great stories. That was really fun, man. I really enjoyed that. Like, I was proud that we pulled that off on like really short notice, and it turned out like a really, really dope episode. So if you never listened to that or feel like one of our newer listeners, we did an interview with former UFC fighter, currently, I forgot, where is he fighting at now?
Crap, what's the name of the promotion? It's in Abu Dhabi.
I forgot where he's at now. Because he went from UFC and then he went to...
It's... I'm gonna kick myself when I see it because I know Brave. There we go.
Yeah, Brave. Yeah, he's in Brave now. But we did a interview with Jose Shorty Torres. Really good interview, man. That was definitely one of the favorite episodes. Really cool guy. He gave us some really good insight. Just because he had a really like interesting background with the crazy like amateur career he had. He had a lot going on, but it was a really, really fun episode. So yeah, that would be up there. The episode I did with Joey, the one time I had to get him to fill in. I still can't remember the fight, but I compared it to a bank robbery because somebody was running around the cage and it looked like a police chase. That was a good moment. We had a lot of good ones.
I feel like all of our best moments though come before we actually start recording the episode.
They do. You know what? And I'm gonna kind of tie this back to his first question, kind of, sort of. Not really something I wish I knew before, but maybe like a regret. I wish I would have done like a greatest hits. Like, I wish I would have kept note of like the best moments we've had and just marked them down, so that I could have went back and like just done like a bonus episode and just edited like all the best moments and just made it like one podcast. I wish I would have did it. That'd be an advice I'd give to anybody listening if you're starting a podcast. Anytime you have like a really good laugh out loud, or just random moment, mark it down, man. Mark it down. Mark it down so you can come back later and edit it and make it like an episode. So yeah, I don't know if I let you answer favorite moment. Oh, you said a couple, but did you have any other ones?
Anytime we just talked about one of the just bizarre ass sports that exists in like the ESPN Ocho sphere.
Anytime you know what? I know one we can both agree on. We've talked about this episode. I don't remember what episode we did it, but whenever we came up with the idea for the barbecue fight league,
True.
yeah, that's a historic. Y'all bet. I swear.
I feel like that's the episode. You know what I think? What episode it was? It was the episode I think where we found out that the UFC was printing like the tough dad shirts, and we just like lost our shit because we were like. That's
I went back and tried to find that episode. I could not remember what episode it was.
Oof.
I could not remember. I was trying to think of like what was happening around that time when I tied it to Tim Bosch. So what I would do was look at Tim Bosch's record and see what card it was on, and I would go to that podcast. I could not find it. I
think what brought it upon was like, oh, the UFC's stealing our gimmick now. Fuck them. We'll start a whole fight promotion.
Right. Y'all, listen, man. I better not see no barbecue fight league in a couple years. I mean, y'all heard that idea originated.
That's all Fight Island will be.
Listen, that came from us. If you see that idea out that came from this podcast. You did not get that anywhere else. We have been talking about that for like this whole 3 years. That was us.
Original fight promotion, do not steal.
Yeah, that was us. He's got 2 more questions. Next question. I've actually been pondering on this all day. Thoughts who would win between Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira?
I'd have to go with Jan.
See, my initial thought was Jan. Like, I feel like he should win. He should win.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what, man? Just because I gotta go with Glover. Somehow he's gonna find a way. I don't know how. He's gonna get beat up. Because I feel like, honestly, like, Jan should be able to knock him out. Like, he should be able to put some bruises on Glover pretty bad. But I don't know. I feel like Glover, he weave his way in there. It's going to be a little ugly. He's going to get beat up. Going to be a little lumped up. I feel like he'll find a way to edge it out. I don't know how, but I feel like he could. But Jan should win. On paper, Jan should win. But I'm going to go with Glover just because. Because it's 205 and dumb things happen at 205. No, there are no rules. So I'm going with Glover. And Joey's last question. Will the pandemic lead to more promotions like Top Rank, GBP, Bellator, and company building their own facilities to hold fights?
Bellator maybe just because they have Viacom money and they have like TV studios and stuff like that they could probably rent out and get dates that way. But like at the same time, unlike the UFC, Bellator doesn't get like a set amount of money per card or venue. Like the UFC can put on Jessica I, Cynthia Calvillo makes $7 million, not including like advertisement stuff. You know what I mean? Bellator is owned by Viacom and is run on the Viacom station. Like their entire business model is completely different. So from that aspect, I don't see how they would like unless Viacom was like in desperate need of live programming on like one of their networks. I don't see the need for them to be like, okay, let's drag out this thing that we own and put it on Paramount Network because we need something to fill up the 11 p.m. slot. You know what I mean? Like ESPN, their programming has been it's been pretty freaking wild to watch what they do when they don't have live sports to cover. Just a whole lot of like nothing. mixed in with the occasional like here's NCAA game from like 2007. It's like there's a level of desperate that is there for ESPN that I don't think is there for Viacom. So I don't think they ever actually see the need to be like, okay, um, we have to change around one of our sound stages so that we can have like a fight card in here. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Um, for boxing, I think it's just a money thing. It's just like it makes sense if you're like Eddie Hearn and you have the zone contract where you're like we have to put on like 70 cards this year, so I'm gonna just have them fly to my house and fight in my yard. Um, but you're also leaving like with that it's just like okay, but like at a certain point, like do you want to pass up an Anthony Joshua gate? Or do you want to pay Anthony Joshua without like a live gate? You know what I mean? Because like Anthony
All
Joshua's
right.
live gates are like ridiculous. Like they make more than like a lot of people make off of the TV deals. Um, and unlike and like again, boxing has a totally different revenue setup than the UFC. Like most of the money that a promotion makes in boxing goes to its boxers. Um, you know, Canelo is like 108% of Golden Boy's revenue. Um, and he's actually he's actually beefing with them because apparently, like that ridiculous like $500 million deal that he signed with DAZN was like, oh no, that's also Golden Boy's money too, and he was not happy about that. Um, so like it makes sense to me that like some of these promoters like trying to find their way around these types of situations, but like the UFC has the Apex Center because they do the Contender Series shit there. They do the Tough there, or they did Tough there. They have a training facility for their fighters because they don't actually pay them to actually have real camps. I mean, it's true. Um, but like the boxing model doesn't accommodate for that type of stuff. Um,
Yeah, I don't know if they're necessarily gonna build their own facilities, but I think everybody at the bare minimum, because I feel like all the sports leagues, if they're smart and they're still trying to continue business, everybody is probably looking at everybody else to see what everybody's doing. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody was looking at the UFC events like, all right, let's see if they pull this off and like it's actually safe. Same as I've been hearing reports that like the NBA is gonna try to do this whole Disney World thing.
yeah, that's gonna be funny.
So I think I don't know if everybody can build their own locations or facilities, but I think everybody at bare minimum is gonna be like, all right, we the same way the UFC did, and the same way I guess the NBA is trying to do. We need to find some kind of central location that we can just hold our events at until the world returns to normal, if that if that ever happens. But I think everybody at bare minimum is they're gonna have to find some place, at least some venue that's gonna allow them to do this, and they'll just, I guess, exclusively just work with that venue until things open back up.
Right, and there's also other factors you have to take into account. Like the UFC hasn't held an event at the Apex Center yet. I know they're trying for the for the end of the month, but like that's because this was a thing brought on by like the state of Nevada, where like they closed down the state. And obviously like there's a million and one other scenarios, but like this is also it's not quite an what you call an unprecedented thing that pandemics have been around as long as human history has been around. But like I'm sure I'm sure, and I'm sure you could think of like other scenarios where this would be useful. But like I'm thinking like what other scenarios would you be in where venues are shut down and you still have to make money? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like maybe if there's like a war in your country and it's getting like firebombed like England did during World War II, but like even then it's just like at that point you're not running cards.
Right. Then who knows? Like,
Yeah,
we might experience a second wave, and that might change things.
that's true.
I just think for now, bare minimum, everybody's just gonna try to find some central hub that they can.
I do think there's going to be a rise in like shady like land slash arena slash stadium owners.
Oh yeah.
Like,
That's
oh
definitely going down.
yeah, like Jacksonville is open, so or like Florida's open, so like I got this high school gymnasium.
Yeah, I was gonna say keep an eye on Atlanta.
Yeah.
Keep an eye on Atlanta. That might be the next spot. 'Cause apparently they down there wilding too. But yeah, everybody's gonna try to find their little home, their little hub, to make things happen. But we'll see. But once again, thank you guys for the questions, man. Definitely appreciate it. Gave some extra content for this last episode. But now we are here. Main event. What you guys came here for. Or maybe you didn't come here for this, but you're gonna get it anyway. It is time for us to do our top 10 favorite fights of all time. So real quick before we get started, was there anything about making this list that surprised you? Like, was there a certain fight you thought that would make it that didn't, or a certain fighter that made it that you thought would make it that didn't, or like what went into creating this list?
It's just the fights that I could pop on and be like, yeah, I'll sit here and watch the entire thing the way through. Like I didn't really have a criteria. It's just the fights that brought me the most amount of joy. You know. I think the thing, if there's anything that surprised me, is just like, like it's just like I got to like. So I told you, I have like a list of like 30 or 40 fights in front of me. I'm just gonna pick them at random because like they're all my favorites. They're all my favorites. Also, like I'm sure we're gonna have fights that overlap. But like for me to sit here and be like, oh, this made the cut over this one, and it's just like it felt like too arbitrary. It depends on like what I want to see at the moment, you know, my mood. So, like, but like I think the thing that surprised me, or not surprised so much, is just like, oh yeah, I'm only human. It's just how much I forgot, because there's a lot of fights on this list.
Yeah,
I'm looking at where I'm like, I forgot this fight happened, or I'm looking at the list. I'm like, there are like a lot of fights I know for a fact I would have on this list right now if I could just remember them. Because you watch like 1,000 fights a year, you're just gonna forget a bunch of them, even if you really enjoyed them.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, guys, like we're doing this just kind of for fun. Like, well, I'll say for mine, I think my number 1 and 2 are pretty definitive. I'll stick by those. Everything after that, it was kind of like a free for all. Cause like you said, man, we watch the number of fights we probably watched in our lifetime is a ridiculous number. You can't remember everything. It's hard to even weigh like what fight meant more to you than the other. A lot of mine were, all of the fights on my list for me were kind of just like moments, for one reason or another. Either I was like really personally like invested in it, or like you said, it was just something that like it was pure entertainment. Like I was just thoroughly entertained watching it, and I could watch it any time of the day. You could throw it on any time of the day, and I'm gonna watch it. I had one surprise. There's one fight that I'll mention in my honorable mentions that I for sure thought was going to make my top 10, and it didn't. And at one point, this was one of my favorite fights. And I was surprised. Not only did it not make my top 10, when I finished my list, I didn't even consider throwing it into a spot to like try to sneak it in. I was like, oh, maybe I don't feel as good about this fight as I thought I did. But it's still a great fight, nonetheless. So my idea, I guess, for this, well, I guess it might be kind of different because you're just gonna pick 10. But instead of me going all the way 10 through 1 and then you going 10 through 1, I figured we would just alternate. I'll kick it off. I'll do my 10. You do your 10. I'll do my 9. You do your 9. But before we do that, if you have any, well, this might be harder for you to do because yours aren't numbered. But I was gonna say, list some honorable mentions, ones that probably won't make top 10, but they were just out. I'll kick mine off since I actually have mine kind of numbered and listed out here. Honorable mentions for fights that didn't make my top 10. They were right out there. The first one I have to mention is because this one was my number 10 up until this morning. Was Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz 1. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it on this podcast. I probably have, but I hated Tito Ortiz. When I first started watching MMA, I did not like Tito Ortiz at all. And Chuck Liddell is one of my all-time favorites. So seeing Chuck be able to put the paws on Tito, I can't describe the joy that brought me. And that finishing sequence for me is just iconic when he just has him backed up against the cage and he just unleashes an 8-piece flurry. Albeit, I think Ortiz probably blocked some of it, but he was just curled up, just catching hands. And that put a good smile on my face. So that is an honorable mention. Another fight that was just out of the top 10, Benson Henderson versus Anthony Pettis. I still remember literally yelling when he landed that kick. I was literally in my room, yelling. Never seen nothing like that. It hurt me because I was Bendo's one of my favorites, so I didn't want to see him lose. But the Showtime kick is just literally out of a movie. You can't beat that. So I got a few honorable mentions. I got 6 of them. I won't spend too much time on the rest of these. Another honorable mention was Angela Lee versus Mei Yamaguchi. A lot of my fights are actually title fights, which surprised me. I was surprised that my attention span would let me watch these for so long. But that to me is just an amazing fight. That's another fight that every now and again I just go back and just watch, just because. The fight that most surprised me that did not make my top 10 was John Jones versus Alexander Gustafsson. The first one. That was, at the time when it happened, I loved that fight. And I would go back and watch it. If I saw it replayed on TV, I would watch it. It's one of the first times we saw Jones look human. And I couldn't put it in my top 10. I wanted to, but I couldn't. It couldn't, just didn't quite make it. And my last 2 honorable mentions were Gina Carano versus Chris Cyborg, which was a moment for me. I still remember watching that fight because I didn't know who Chris Cyborg was. And I found out that day. That was just a moment for me. I was like, who is this woman? Because she is a problem. She is a issue out here. And my last honorable mention, which I knew wouldn't make my top 10, but I wanted to give it a shout out, was Nikki Holzken versus Joe Valtellini. That for me, because like I said, I'm of all the combat sports I watched, kickboxing was the one I was probably the least knowledgeable about, and the one I probably watched the least. And Nikki was kind of one of the first guys I remember watching that, all right, I start watching this Glory thing, because this guy is he is a technician, and it is really beautiful to watch him fight. So that was my last honorable mention.
I mean, as you noted, I have 40 here. So I'm sure I won't get to talk about all of them. I have Shogun Hendo 1 on here, which is tremendous, just all-out brawl. Hunt versus Bigfoot, that's another really good one. I actually had someone a couple weeks ago, I think it was last week, I posted that we would be talking about our favorite fights this week, and someone brought up Hunt versus Bigfoot, and it was this is the first fight I saw, and it made me an instant MMA fan. I was like, wow.
That's a wild entry point.
Yeah.
That is a crazy entry point.
I'm like, dude, like, props, but like that's the only heavyweight fight that's like, it's not the only heavyweight fight that's like that, but like most of them are not that back and forth. Like I'm trying to be judicious here because like there are not a ton of like really older fights on here. Like Gomi Pulver is a fight I love. It's like, oh wow, this is some like legitimately good boxing for like that mid 2000s like era level of MMA. But at the same time, like by today's standards, it's not anything special in terms of like skill, or technique, not in terms of like entertainment. It's a very entertaining fight. And some of these fights I'm just not gonna bring up because I don't remember them too well. I just remember them being really fun. Like I have Borg versus Scoggins and Borg versus Ortiz on here, which were both just. If you like scrambling, if you like submission attempts, if you like guys just like going balls to the wall with their grappling, those are just two fantastic fights, and that's why I'm always gonna have a soft spot for Ray Borg, even though he's going to continually miss weight for the rest of his career. Just complete fun action.
That made me think of something. I'll let you finish though.
For boxing, a fight that I remember watching with all like Timothy Bradley versus Ruslan Provodnikov. It's not one of the greatest fights ever. But don't get, like that's only because boxing's been around 130 years now in gloves, and like the narrative for that fight, Bradley was coming off the Pacquiao win, which I thought he lost, and I was really upset about that because I was a Pacquiao fan at the time. I was like, yeah, I'm going to see Ruslan Provodnikov just beat the crap out of him. And he did. To his credit, he did. But good God, did Provodnikov and Bradley made a fan out of me that night because, oh my God, he took a lot to win that fight. And then he came back and beat Juan Manuel Marquez. I was like, after this fight, I was like, there's no way he's going to have anything left in his career. That's where I was at with him because, like, you know, boxing, like you go through those like really hard fights and you just end up not being the same ever again. But to his credit, he came back and won his next fight, arguably the best win of his career. If you don't consider the first Pacquiao fight to be a win for him. So like that's a fight where it's just like the narrative and. You know, the level of heart displayed and victory and loss, and like it's just like one of those things where it's like, okay, he made a fan out of me. I went from hater to fan in one fight. So like those are a few that I probably will not be that won't be in my top 10, but just fights like that give you a general view of what I like when I'm watching fights.
When you mentioned scrambling, I wouldn't say this was an all-time. It might have been. If I did an all-time favorite, it'd be way lower on the list. But a fight that I really, really appreciated that I don't think a lot of people care for it, that I actually really enjoyed watching, was Jake Shields versus Damian Maia.
That was a great fight.
That was a great
Anybody
fight.
who says differently is a liar.
Like, I knew that wouldn't make my top 10, but I wanted to mention it because I don't think people really appreciate that fight enough. That was a great fight. Yeah, it's not, you know, rock'em sock'em robots, but you got two of the best grapplers ever. Like, I don't understand how you can't appreciate that. That fight to me was great. So I had to give that a mention. So I guess we'll go ahead and kick this off. I'll just say for my list. I didn't go full, you know, I don't have any random obscure fights. I think my list is pretty straightforward. I think the most I can say for my list, I have two fights that I think are pretty underrated that I don't think people talk about enough. And I'll mention those when I get to them. But without further ado, our top 10 favorite fights of all time. You want to kick this off or you want me to kick this off?
Yeah, I got number. I got you. I'll kick you off with number one. I really hope our lists don't overlap too much because.
Oh, I want to start from the bottom, or you just gonna do?
But no, I mean I don't have like a particular order.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I have two that are like my absolute number one and number two. Yeah, actually three. Like my 1 through 3. So I'll keep those for the end, but I'll kick us off with a fight I've talked about it here before. I think it's one of the few fights I actually rewatched for this. It was Miguel Torres versus Takemi Mizugaki.
That was another one. I forgot to write that down, and I watched that one too.
Yeah. Like I rewatched it earlier last week, and it was a fine fight. It was a really good fight. Like it wasn't the all out like wild barn burner I remembered it as, but it was the fight that got me into MMA. Just seeing it like on the Random Versus channel. Probably like a year after it happened. It's the thing that was like, okay, this MMA shit is legit. I really want to know more about it. Just fantastic bantamweight fight. Kind of wild how far the division's come since then. In like 10 years, because like I said, like looking like with those older fights, like the technical skill is so much not great.
Yeah.
As it would be, and it's the same with any sport. So like
things evolve and change.
Yeah, things change over time. Athletes get better, they get better training. But for what it was a tremendous fight. Lots of heart shown by Mizugaki, who just refused to be, who refused to break, in the face of like Miguel Torres' reach and volume and pressure. So just great fight. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. If you haven't seen Miguel Torres' run through WEC, go check that out. That's some wild stuff.
If this was an all-time favorite fighter list, Miguel was up there for me. He was, because that period back then, that was kind of like my favorite like era of MMA. And when I first started watching WEC, he was the guy for me. He was that guy for me. Good one, good pick. I'm glad somebody brought him up. He was close on my list too, and didn't make it. That's a good pick. My number 10. I just happened to rewatch this morning. I was like, nah, man, I gotta throw this on there. And like I said, my list it ain't nothing crazy obscure. It's straight to the point. My number 10 is Anderson Silva versus Forrest Griffin. This fight made my list for a couple reasons. One, Anderson Silva just matrixed the man. Like, he caught Forrest with like a left, staggered him, and then they have this encounter in the center where he does the infamous bob weave, duck under, come back up with the left, and drop him. And then he ends the fight. Forrest just tries to flurry him. But Anderson Silva just stepped back and just gave him like a death palm. And just floored him. And Forrest Griffin immediately left the cage. Like, didn't stick around he got out of that arena so quick. But my favorite part about that fight is not the fight.
No,
it's the interview. There's an interview he did on what was the show? Jason Ellis show, I think. And they asked him about the fight, and Forrest gave like the realest answer ever, and I will forever respect him for. A lot of fighters will lose a fight and make up 1,000 excuses. Nah, he went in there. He pretty much said in the interview like, nah, he was like, why would you try to hit me, you slow white boy? Like, why would you try to do such a thing? It was a really funny interview. But nah, man, Anderson Silva, just watching him fight back then was like, bro, who is this guy? Like, how is he doing this? Like, he was just clowning on dudes, and that fight for me just will always stick out. One of his best Matrix performances. So that is my number 10, Anderson Silva versus Forrest Griffin.
All right, solid choice. I was gonna say, Forrest Griffin's favorite thing was just running out of the cage when he lost. Because he did the same thing to Tito Ortiz after he beat him, quote unquote. And I think what was Tito's last fight in the UFC, if I remember correctly. But I don't know, I found that funny. Number 9, and again, my list is in no particular order. Do not take it at that value. There would be a lot of I really just want to cut off all the boxing because there's so much MMA to get to. But I think I'm gonna just pick one more fight from boxing. And my favorite fight, my favorite boxing match of all time, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran won. If you want to see the best infighter in boxing, you watch Roberto Duran drag Sugar Ray Leonard into what is ostensibly a phone booth fight. Both men just leaning on each other, trying to make space to punch one another. It's just Duran was it's obvious now, but at the time Duran was labeled like a brawler. People were not really high up on his boxing skills. Everybody thought that a lot of people thought that Duran was going to be an easy fight for Leonard, and just watching, Duran is one of the most skilled boxers of all time. In, out, whatever. He is legitimately one of the best boxers, skill for skill, in the history of the sport. And seeing him being able to drag Sugar Ray Leonard into that type of fight, do a lot of provocation, using his mouth. Say he was going to fuck his wife after he fucked him in the ring. Duran realized he was the heel early on, and he just leaned heavy into that shit. But just tremendous infighting. You'll never see guys throwing tighter uppercuts than Roberto Duran with his forehead in somebody's shoulder. Just absolutely fantastic. If you've never seen the fight before, go watch it. A
lot of those old boxing fights I gotta go back and do my homework on.
Any of those 4 King fights, man. Hearns, Hagler, Leonard, Duran, all fantastic stuff.
Boom. I knew you were gonna bring gems that I just wasn't gonna mention.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go one more boxing match after this, and then I'll be done. Right. Your turn. What's number 9?
Number 9.
9. Okay.
Number 9. All right. My number 9 favorite fight of all time actually snuck in. This wasn't on my list at first, but it ended up getting in there. Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez won.
Hey.
First, I'm gonna say real quick. I know people we poke fun at Bellator. They're like MMA's little stepbrother that has to stay in the other room. Bellator has a lot of good fights in their history. I know we rag on them, but they've got a few classics under their belt. And this is definitely one of them. This was I always remember this fight because I was a big Eddie Alvarez fan, Underground King. We knew who, if you was in the know, you knew who Eddie Alvarez was. I wasn't too familiar with Michael Chandler at the time, so I was like, who is this guy? And then they proceeded to go in there and just beat the life. They just back and forth, just beat the life out of each other. And I was on the edge of my seat watching this fight. Because like I said, I didn't know who Chandler was. So I'm watching Eddie in here. He's getting tagged. He's tagging him. And I'm like, bro, what am I watching? This is craziness. And then when Chandler hits that choke at, I forgot what round it was. 4? Or did it go 5? I can't remember.
What 2?
But, was it just 2? Why did that fight feel so long? It just felt it felt like they were fighting forever.
They had a rematch that went 5 rounds.
Okay. Yeah. They did.
Am I misremembering, or was it actually just 2? I feel like it was just 2. I
don't know why that fight felt so long. It just felt like they just nobody wanted to die. Like they
Oh,
just
no,
kept.
it went 4. I'm crazy.
Yeah, I thought it
What
did
am I
go. Yeah,
talking-
it did go
It
4.
went
Yeah,
4.
he subbed him in 4. And I just remember when he landed that choke, and I was like, oh no, Eddie lost. But I put it on there, one, because it was an amazing fight, even though the guy I was rooting for lost. But also for me, like it marked the start of like
The most bizarre MMA career of all time.
that both of them. But like that was the birth of like Bellator star. Like I didn't know it when it happened, but I was like, that guy's he's a staple. Like, and he became like the face of that company. And he was the guy for a long time who I looked at outside of the UFC, and I was like, okay, it's possible to be a star and make. You don't have to be in the UFC to make something of yourself, pretty much. Not like I didn't know that, but like he just became for me like another example. Like, okay, there are guys outside of the UFC who are just as good and are making a good living for themselves. And he was an incredible fighter, man. It was just an amazing fight, back and forth, blood, amazing fight. Like I said, people make fun of Bellator. They have some classics under their belt.
It's wild for Chandler. Like, how many other dudes can say that they have 2 wins over 2 UFC champions
Right. And never step foot
and never
into the UFC.
Yep, exactly.
Never step foot. And their second fight was great too. But that's my number 9, Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez 1.
All right. I said I'm gonna just get all my non-MMA related ones out the way early. So number 8, Hagler Hearns.
Hey.
3 rounds, just arguably the best round of boxing ever with that first round. Just absolute ferocity, ridiculous intensity. I honest to God, I don't know when people talk about like the 80s and like the golden era of boxing, and like this is the fight they're talking about, like both literally and like metaphorically. Like, this is what you want from like 2 world-class athletes at the top of their game, to just go neck and neck at one another. Like, have you seen the fight?
I don't remember if I've watched this one. This might be on the list of fights that I've always heard about, and I don't remember if I ever went back and watched it.
It is arguably the greatest boxing match of all time. Anything I say devalues how good the fight was, because it was just that good. And again, it did not go 10 rounds. It went not. It didn't even go 9 minutes. It was just 8 minutes of just insanity. 2 guys fighting as hard as humanly possible. And Marvin Hagler's best win ever. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it to somebody who's not seen it. Like, if there's one fight from this list that you haven't seen that you should go watch, it should be this fight. Or from my list anyway. Like I said, it won't even take you 10 minutes, but it's just intensity.
Will do. All right. There you go. Make sure you guys watch all these fights we mentioned if you haven't. So yeah, I'm pretty sure I have some fun homework to do. All right, moving on to, what is this, number 8? Yeah, number 8. Number 8, all-time favorite fight. Got to put my homie on here, man. My all-time favorite, even though he only made number 8. But my man, George St. Pierre versus Carlos Condit. This wasn't like GSP's, I think, like best fight. Like, he's had, I think, better performances. But I think the reason this fight for me, like, was one of my all-time favorites. It just kind of, I remember, this is one of the few, this might be the only GSP fight that I did not see in real time. I was at work when this happened, and I was so angry. I was working overnights at Toys R Us. So I'm unloading trucks, and every like 2 to 3 minutes, I'm sneaking away, and my homie's texting me, letting me know what's going on in the fight. Because I'm at work losing it, like mad that I can't watch it, nervous because I don't know what's going on. Next thing I know, I get a text message, oh, he dropped GSP with a kick. I'm like, bro, what is happening? Like, I'm losing my mind figuring out what's going on in this fight. But now this fight for me meant a lot. One, GSP was my all-time favorite. Condit was another all-time favorite. I was happy to finally see him like get his title shot, and I was like, if there's one guy that GSP loses to who I won't hate automatically, it would be Carlos Condit if he happens to win. It was a nice bloody fight. I think this was one that gave us that iconic picture of Condit where he had like the blood that's like halfway down one side of his face, and he looks like a straight up killer for real. The sequence when he did the 1-2 duck under, come up with the head kick to GSP was beautiful. And I want to say, didn't GSP have like a layoff before that fight, right? Or injury, or
that was his return fight after after the ACL tear.
Yeah. Like we hadn't seen GSP in a while, and Condit was like that dude back then. So I was like, oh man, like this. I was so hyped for this fight. So it was great to see GSP come back. He looked great. He was huge, bro. That man, like he spent his whole time with the ACL tear just doing bench presses. Like I remember he looked like a running back when he came back. But it was an entertaining, just bloody fight. I mean, eventually throughout the fight, it was kind of one-sided, but it was two of my favorite fighters, and just everything surrounding it, like GSP coming off the ACL tear, not knowing what he was going to look like, Condit actually like hurting him in the fight and getting a chance to like possibly win. I had so many emotions like just watching this fight. And it's still, every time I watch it, it takes me back. Like, I still remember pacing up and down that Toys R Us aisle, waiting for the text to figure out, like, yo, what's going on? So, yeah, man, that fight, to me, always will hold a special place for me. Two of my all-time favorite fighters facing off. And GSP ultimately getting the nod after the ACL tear. So, that's my number 8, George St. Pierre versus Carlos Condit.
All right, solid. All right, I guess I'm gonna get my non-mixed martial arts ones out the way early because I know people are here for the MMA stuff. So, number 7. We had 7 already.
Yep.
All right, number 7. Zambides versus Shahid. It's the best kickboxing match of all time. Just like you want to talk war, you want to talk just drama, you want to talk all these different elements that we normally like in like these big violent fights. Zambi Shahid had it in spades. The only thing it didn't have going for it wasn't a title fight because neither guy is Georgia Petrosian, unfortunately, or Andy Sauer. But point being, it was in the.
Sorry, I tried to turn the fight on. My bad.
It was just an immense testament to just like how much action you can fit into like a 12-minute span. Zambidi, like this is the fight, like, you know, that if you are new to kickboxing, there's the fight I always suggest. Just because it's so much.
You showed
fun.
me this before.
Yes.
Yeah, I have watched this before. This was a really good fight.
And it is arguably the best kickboxing match of all time. Just tremendous stuff. Just Zambides, Shahid walking forward and Zambides refusing to be scared off, just throwing bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb. It is literally 12 minutes. Like, and it's not like, you know, the bombs we're used to seeing in MMA where guys are just like heaving overhand rights from across the cage. Like these guys.
Not like it looks clean.
Yeah, no, this is some clean.
This is high level.
Clean stuff. If you, like I said, if you wanted an entry point to kickboxing, this is the fight for you. It is.
Yeah, I mean,
this is what
literally, if you go to YouTube and type in Zambides versus, it's the first thing.
Like if you're one of those people who don't like grappling, like, and you want all MMA, this is the fight that all those people who don't like grappling want all MMA fights to look like. So,
right.
Yeah, just a straight up war of attrition. So yeah, go give that a watch.
High level kickboxing is really like beautiful to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you said, like it's a war, but it's clean. Like this, nobody's winging like some ugly.
We're not getting some Todd Duffy, Francis Ngannou style slap punches.
Right. Yeah, no, this is all clean. Solid pick. Solid, definitely good pick. So we had number 7. My number 7 fight. I'm only surprised that it didn't put it higher on the list. But you guys, I've talked about this fight plenty of times and how much joy that it brings me. Number 7 all-time favorite fight. Michael Bisping versus Luke Rockhold 2. There was no way this fight wasn't going to make my list. As you guys know, I'm like one of 2 Michael Bisping fans in the United States. Everybody hates him. It's fine.
The other one is his son. It's just his wife.
Right. But Bisping has always been my guy. Albeit I know a lot of the hate he put on himself. But I get it. But man, he's been like one of my favorites for a long time. And I just remember I've mentioned it before, after he lost to Chael Sonnen, I was like, oh man, I thought that was like his one chance, and he didn't. He lost a really close fight. I was like, man, he might not ever make it. And then a few years later, man, he keeps himself relevant, goes on this crazy run, regardless of how you may feel about how those fights went. He got himself in his position to get the title shot, and he got it. And like, not only did he win, man, but he put Rockhold out like that. Every time I watch that fight, I'm just like, that whole card really was amazing. But that for me, just like, that might have been like my happiest moment ever watching an MMA fight. Like, I was so happy that he finally, I didn't care about anything else that happened after that. Like, I know people don't like his defense against Dan Henderson. None of that, I didn't care about any of that. The fact that he just won a title, I was like, I'm good. I'm happy. You finally made it to the mountaintop that I wasn't sure you would ever reach, and you did it. And the person that you beat made it like all the better that you knocked out Luke Rockhold, who has never really been the same. His career has taken a little plunge after that.
Yeah.
But just based on the immense joy that this fight had to make my list, and Bisping being one of my favorites. So number 7 for me, Michael Bisping versus Luke Rockhold 2.
All right, so we're up to number 6, and I had a couple other non-MMA ones, but I'm just gonna stick to the MMA ones for now on because I have like 15 of them here that I have to pick from on the spot. You know what, I'm gonna go with one that was not in the UFC or Bellator or Pride or any of the promotions that the people who don't follow regional MMA probably aren't familiar with. Magomedov versus Petr Yan 1.
Hey.
Yeah. No, you want to talk about complete style clash? You got the grappler and Magomedov, and then you have the striker, boxer, and Petr Yan. Petr Yan proceeds to just put an absolute beating onto Magomedov, but Magomedov keeps getting the takedown, keeps being able to control Yan on the ground and do some damage there. And it's just like, if you want a distillation of like what MMA is, and like just
if you want an example of like just how this sport can look at, like when you have like two extremes fighting one another, it'd be Petr Yan versus Magomedov. It is just an amazingly good fight. And it's not like Jan's a bad grappler. He has some like amazing scrambling sequences and like takedown defense attempts in that fight. Magomedov was just the more determined fighter. And just was able to get the better positions on his entries at certain points to get the takedowns. It's just absolutely fantastic fight. If you've never seen it before, go watch it, along with like the 5 other fights I mentioned to go watch. But it's like some high level MMA. And it's just a reminder that you can find high level MMA anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the UFC or Bellator. It can be on a random card in like Chechnya.
Yep. And I'll say to Anticool's credit, he was preaching the Petr Yan gospel very early.
Since that fight on, basically.
Yeah, he was preaching that gospel. So, see, you guys should have been listening to us. We were putting y'all on game. But no, that is an amazing fight. That was one of the ones you mentioned that I did have to go back and watch. So yeah, really, really good pick. My number 6, a fight that I think is really criminally underrated. People don't talk about enough. And I thought this fight was amazing. My number 6 is going to be Jose Aldo versus Chad Mendes 2. What's wild is I thought this was like the best Chad Mendes has ever looked, and he still lost. Like, bro, you could tell that between the first fight and when that fight took place, that he had clearly been working on his stand-up. He was bouncing around, throwing good combinations.
He had like 3 or 4 knockouts in a row, didn't he? Or 5 maybe. Yeah. He was working with Ludwig.
Yeah. Hands were looking good. Hands were looking real real clean and crisp. Dropped Aldo in the first with a left that kind of stunned him a little bit. It was a fun, just little technical MMA like kickboxing match. A few takedowns. I think Chad got one later in the fight. Also another fight that shows how crazy Aldo's takedown defense is. So Mendes went for a takedown. I can't remember. It was in one of the earlier rounds. Watching Aldo just scramble out of takedowns, it's like when you grab him, his body goes into like a panic mode, and he's like, no, and he just he just finds ways to just get out, and it is crazy to watch. But they had a very I feel like this fight is just one of the ones on my list that I find just aesthetically pleasing to watch. It is just a really fun, high-paced, just like back and forth kind of kickboxing match. One of the last better Aldo performances. One of the last Aldo fights that to me that looked like vintage Aldo before he kind of, I don't say fell off, but
I think this fight took both of their primes away from them.
Yeah. They both took some licks. Both slowly kind of sort of hit a decline after this, but this was just really just aesthetically just fun to watch. Just Chad Mendes was at the top of his game, but Aldo showed that he was still the GOAT for a reason. But my God, it was fun to watch them just go back and forth. Really just beautiful technique. It was so fun to watch. A fight that I don't think really gets enough credit, but for me, I thoroughly enjoy watching this. So my number 6, Jose Aldo versus Chad Mendes 2.
Well, you nicked one of mine. Finally. Because I had that one coming up, but I'll save it for later. See, so we have 5 left, right? So I got 1,
Yep.
2, 3, which are my top 3. So I need a 4 and a 5. I feel like I'm playing bingo.
It's getting real.
Yeah.
Getting real.
You know what? At number 5, I will go with. You know what? I have my number 4. But number 5, I will go with Whitaker Romero 2.
the narrative around that fight, Robert Whitaker had been out for a year due to injuries. The first being the injury he sustained in the first fight with Yoel Romero, where Yoel Romero landed, I believe it was a one of those push kicks to the knee that completely tore everything in Robert Whitaker's knee. Whitaker, being the gamer that he is, lost the first, managed to still win 3 rounds of the fight, basically on one leg, as Yoel Romero, who is the most terrifying fighter in MMA history. Just absolute banana stuff, and that's fight 1. Romero was not Romero. If I remember correctly, Whitaker was supposed to come back a few months previously to this fight, but had to pull out because if he had got punched in the stomach, his intestines were so bad that if he had got punched in the stomach, there was a decent chance he might have died.
Jeez.
Yeah, I remember that. His intestines were all types of fucked up and twisted around, and he was still trying to make the fight the day of or the day before. I think that's why we ended up getting Romero Rockhold in the interim, which would eventually lead to us getting this fight, Whitaker Romero 2, which was basically the opposite of the first fight, where Whitaker came out and won the first 2 rounds, and then Romero decided he was going to start fighting in the 3rd round so he didn't get tired, which leads to, what I can only describe as the most insane 3 rounds of championship fighting in MMA history, where
Whitaker should have died 4 times.
Yes, Whitaker is getting knocked around the cage, proceeds to land a head kick on Yoel Romero, who eats it like he just got bit by a fly, and continued marching forward like a psychopath. It was the most insane, the most intense thing I think I've ever seen, in terms of a champion having to dig deep and win a fight that he basically had in the bag in the first 2 rounds late. Just bonkers stuff. And unfortunately, this would be the fight that probably robbed Robert Whitaker of the rest of his prime.
Yeah. You don't
know. He'll come back from that. He was gone for another year after this fight.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that I call it a championship fight. Romero missed weight for the fight. The fight took place in Chicago, which had some weird rules where Romero was Romero basically stopped cutting weight early because he was under the impression that the Illinois State Athletic Commission would just give him 2 more hours if he weighed in. Miss weight, so he could have an extra 2 hours to lose a pound so he could make weight. But they were just no, we have to have you evaluated by the doctor. And the doctor says that you are way too dehydrated to continue cutting weight. So this is the weight you're going to fight at if the fight continues. That's a little nugget that gets left off the retellings of that fight. But just even if it wasn't for the title, it was just absolutely fucking insane. One of the best fights ever, easily, hands down. Also, I understand there's a recency bias on my list. Deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really argue that fight though. Go find your favorite fight from 2003 and see if it really. I
mean, I got a couple on here that I was if I have I'll shout them out at the end. But I have my top 4, I think. You know what? I'm gonna take. Aldo Mendez 2 was in that top 3, but I'm gonna take it off because you had it on yours. So, yeah.
All right, good pick. That was a really that fight was. Whitaker came back to life 5 different times, and it was. It's still hard to believe. I remember watching him at welterweight, and if you'd have told me that guy was gonna be middleweight champ back when I first saw him, I would not have believed you. But yeah, that fight was insanity. My number 5. A fight that I never get tired of watching. I watched it again this morning just to make sure I wasn't bugging. I was like, nope, it still holds up. I still love it. You can't change my mind. Like you might be recency biased. I don't care. Number 5, Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum. Wow. Like, this is the only fight on my list. I knew this was going to make my list off the simple fact that I think I mentioned this one time on here. I remember watching this fight, like rewatching it, like right after it happened, like the day after. And I remember watching that 5th round, because up until that point, like they both had beat each other up pretty good. Like Adesanya's lips were swollen. I can't remember if the 4th round was when he got head kicked and did the little stanky leg. Either way, they both had taken their licks. And somebody needed to pull away, because you never know what judges are watching or looking at. So you wanted kind of somebody to pull away to kind of really put a stamp on the fight. And Adesanya just, after taking the punishment he's taken, I know dude is tired and gassed. Man turned up. Turned up in the 5th round. And I'm like, I don't know where he found the energy. I don't know how he did it, but I felt like emotional watching that fight. Like I felt like inspired. Like it was some real like movie type. Like I don't know how he's doing this, but I was like in awe watching that 5th round. I mean, the whole fight is amazing, but to see him in that 5th round after all the punishment he took and just the way he performed, he almost stopped Gastelum like 3 times in the 5th round. Like. They arguably could have stopped it in like those last like 10 seconds, and it probably would have been justified. But last 10 they probably just let it rock. But man, Gastelum's putting hands on Adesanya, the most we've ever seen him hurt. The head kick he caught him with that I don't think anybody really saw coming. I didn't know Gastelum could lift his legs up that high. Caught Adesanya right on the side of the face. Adesanya, though, just rebounding, never lost composure, still doing his pinpoint striking. It was one of the best performances to me I've ever seen in a championship fight. I was amazed watching that. And like I said, to see the way Adesanya put it together in the 5th was just like, bro, this man, like, he really did it. Like, we went from, well, the UFC might be rushing him to a title shot. Like, we want them to, we don't want him to burn out or make him take a loss early and derail him. It went from that to, oh, he's champ. Like, he just, man came up from kickboxing. Like, nah, bro, I got this. And that fight amazes me every time I watch it. And that 5th round gets me every time I watch it. I'm like, bro, I have no idea how he pulled that off. But just so much heart in that fight, really from both of them. But just the way Adesanya was just able to keep composure and seize the moment, that fight for me will always be a top fight. So my number 5, Israel Adesanya versus Kelvin Gastelum.
Whew. Okay. So I said this was our top 10 fights of all time, right? That means these are the fights that brought us the most joy in the moment, right? And I could,
what you about to hit
and
me
I
with?
cannot say, I can say for a fact that no fight that I've ever watched has brought me more joy watching it live than Dada 5000 versus Kimbo Slice.
I knew one of us was going to have something crazy.
I mean, God.
Oh man.
Like I'm sorry, man. Like that's these 2 men managed to elevate a Miami street beef into one of the most watched fights in the history of mixed martial arts in North America. And got paid a decent chunk of change for it. How am I not supposed to be a fan of that?
Like, I am far from the elitists. The only good fights are like, the fights between high level fighters. Like, Kimbo Slice is like the American dream. Like, this dude got famous.
Legit.
Yeah, like this dude got famous fighting on porn sites, and he went on to have a professional fight career in both MMA and in boxing. Got on TV, made a whole bunch of money, put his kid through college. Like, how am I not supposed to be a fan of that? Apparently, he's like the nicest guy. So, like, how am I not supposed to be a fan of Kimbo Slice and Dada 5000? They're just two dudes out here scrapping, putting everything they had together, and wildly missing on every punch. Just the only reason this isn't my favorite fight of all time is just probably killed Kimbo Slice.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace.
Man, every time the anniversary of that fight comes, it pops up on my Facebook because I took a video of that fight, and I get to just relive that moment every year.
Freaking Dada 5000 getting knocked out by the soul punch. He didn't touch him, but it hit him in his soul.
Like, from an entertainment standpoint, it does not get much better than that. Like, man, I ain't gonna lie. For a brief second, I almost started putting Kimbo versus Houston Alexander on my list. Because that fight for me was, I laughed a lot. Like, like what you said with Joey, I can't remember a time I've enjoyed. Like, it wasn't really a good fight, but I found so much joy in watching it that it's just, I don't know. If I did like a top 30, top 40 fights, it would be in there. It would be in there somewhere.
Like, yeah, like sometimes it's more than the technique and that we see in the cage. Sometimes it's the narrative, and the narrative for this fight was beautiful. Heading into it, baby nuts,
Man.
Baby nuts.
That's a good. I'm glad you put that on your list. That's. I was hoping one of us did. I didn't know if you would, but I'm glad we're showing the versatility of combat sports. You got to show the whole gamut. So what was that? Was that number 4?
That was number 4.
Yeah, it was number 4. Number 4. All right, so my number 4. Boy, see, I'm going to the respectable. I feel like I'm letting people down. My number 4 favorite fight. I was surprised the heavyweight made my list. I didn't think that was going to happen. But my number 4 is going to be Fedor Emelianenko versus Crow Cop.
It was glad. I'm glad you brought it up because I was like, am I going to talk about it or am I not?
Yeah, I had to throw this one on there, man. Like this, you don't. You got to cherish good, like heavyweight MMA when you can, when you have it. You don't always get it. I think this is one of the few times we actually got like, all right, these are 2 guys at heavyweight who are actually like legit, like really good. Like it's not gonna be some slop fest. Like we're gonna get 2 of the best in the world. And at the time, like those were the dudes. Like I remember back in the day watching Crow Cop highlight videos. Like this guy's he is head kicking people to to other dimensions. And his KO of Alexander, if I did an all-time favorite KO list, that would probably be like it might be number 1. I love that KO. Just the way he fell. When tall people fall, it's funny to me. But no, man, like the narrative, like Crow Cop knocks out Fedor's brother. So you know Fedor wants to come with the smoke in this fight. And it was just, I loved to see 2 really good heavyweights. Fedor, and this is like prime, Fedor before he ended up fighting Maldonado and whatever he started doing after that. But no, man, I was just really, really hyped for this fight. two guys who just I wasn't sure how this one was gonna go, because you know it only takes one Crow Cop head kick. He can kill anybody. And I don't know. I felt like I was just watching two Titans when this fight happened. And I was like, this just feels like a moment that I don't know if I'm ever, at least in heavyweight, I don't know if I'm ever really going to feel like this again. Like, this was two Titans of the sport clashing, and then Fedor eventually, kind of tired Crow Cop out. The longer the fight went, you could see Crow Cop was starting to fade. And you saw how good Fedor was. I still don't. I know it. I ain't gonna go there. I was gonna say Fedor slander, but what? I'm not gonna go there. But man, just two Titans of the sport, two of the best heavyweights. You got to see them in their primes. Like, for me, it didn't really get much better than that. And then like the fight actually was good. Like it'd be one thing if two heavyweights you want to see fight, and then it turns into Ngannou versus Lewis. But like we actually got a great fight out of it. And looking back, I'm like, man, I was so hyped for this fight, and it actually delivered. And it was two heavyweights at that. I have to appreciate this. This might not ever happen again. So number 4 for me is Fedor Emelianenko versus Crow Cop.
Yeah, I'm glad. Like I said, I'm glad you brought it up, because that was on my list of fights to pick from, and I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to do it. But like, yeah. So, that's a great fight. It's easily the most technical heavyweight fight probably ever. In terms of just like how Fedor was able to disarm the most dangerous heavyweight in the world at that point in Crow Cop. Where are they going? So 3 fights left, right?
Yep.
Like I said, my list has not been in any particular order. I've just been mentioning them in the manner that they have jumped off the page to me. I have a whole bunch here that I have not gotten to that I probably should have in hindsight, and probably still won't. So next on my list, a fight that I hold near and dear to my heart, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Koya Gadela 2. Joanna Jędrzejczyk is one half of 3 of the best fights in women's mixed martial arts history. This fight, the Rose Namajunas rematch, and the Wei Li Jing fight. But I chose this fight just because like the drama was a little bit more palpable. Like if you watch the first Joanna Jędrzejczyk Koya Gadela fight, there's a big argument that Gadela won that fight. She dominated the first round up until the point where she got knocked down. If I remember correctly, she won the second round and lost the third round. It looked like history was repeating itself in the rematch. Koya goes out there and immediately drops Joanna Jędrzejczyk, gets her down, beats her up from the top, does the same thing in the second round, and then drops her early in the third round. That's the part that I don't think is mentioned. Like, she dropped Joanna Jędrzejczyk in that round. But Joanna Jędrzejczyk, being the most well-conditioned athlete in the history of the sport, and I say that with 100% sincerity, she gets up and proceeds to outland Koya Gadela in that third round, something like 50 or 60 strikes to 8. And then proceeds to repeat that over the course of the next 2 rounds. Like, if you want to talk about digging yourself out of a hole as a champion in the championship rounds, like, I don't think there's ever been a more clear-cut sign or a more clear-cut example. Maybe Silva subbing Chael after dropping the first, 4.5 rounds, but even then, that was a momentary thing.
And I was saying, and even that was kind of just one moment. Like, she she had to claw back into that fight. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't just I can land one shot and I'm back. Like, she had to like work
Yeah.
to get back into
And
that.
I can't stress this enough. It's not like she got like, oh, she was held down for 2 rounds and Corey Goodell got tired. It's no, Corey Goodell beat the crap out of her for like 2 straight rounds at the beginning of the fight. Like, I'm talking like really put it on her, dropped her multiple times. And Joanna Jędrzejczyk got back up and proceeded to throw something like 500 strikes in the last like 15, 20 minutes of the fight. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, that was one of the fights that I didn't get to see in real time. And when I finally, because you'd been telling me to watch that fight for a long time, and when I finally went back and watched it, I was like, man, I can only imagine that. I feel like had I watched that like when it happened, I would feel so much more strongly about that fight. But now, in terms of championship performances, that's a top performance. Like, a lot of other people would have dropped them first 3 and probably that might have just been it. Like, she earned that W. She definitely earned that W.
Yeah, it's a shame. I shouldn't say it's a shame. It's probably for the best that was on. But that fight, I think, took place like a Friday night for like the tough finale, the day before International Fight Day, I want to say. So like there were definitely not as many eyes on it as there was the following night. But just what a amazing fight. It's just tremendous.
That's another one that I think probably doesn't get talked about enough. That, like, yeah, if you haven't watched that fight in a while, go back and give that one a look. Definitely go back and give that one a look.
Yeah, like great, tremendous fight. What was I gonna? So that's my number 3. Though again, mine aren't ranked by like order of whatever. Mine are just like, these are 10 fights I really like. You should check them out. I still got 2 left.
All right. Number 3, man, we're getting to the thick of it. Number 3. Not only do I think this fight is underrated, this whole trilogy is underrated.
Ooh, trilogy.
I'm pretty sure it was a trilogy. I want to say that. I'm pretty sure they fought 3 times. But my number 3 fight. Number 3, favorite fight of all time. Gilbert Melendez versus Josh Thompson 2. Man, if you didn't watch this trilogy, or even if you just didn't watch, man, bruh, like, this was a fight. Like, this was a fighter's fight. Like, this fight made me remember how much I enjoyed watching Strikeforce. It was legit. They were legit a number 2 to the UFC. And they were legit in some ways kind of better at that time.
They had the better heavyweight division.
Yeah, like, bro, Strikeforce, just like to me, like Bellator, they got some classics under their belt. And this is one of them. What a fight, man. Like, back and forth, both of them dropping each other. I don't know if I ever watched their first fight. Or if I did, I don't remember it. But I know Thompson won. To be honest, it's another argument. Arguably, Thompson won the trilogy. I remember watching that third fight and thinking Thompson could have edged it. But that's another discussion for another day. But either who. Melendez-Thompson, too, was an incredible back and forth. Everybody was getting dropped by all kinds of stuff. Like, this was one of those fights. I think my number 1, really my 3, 2, and 1, not so much like emotional attachments as like from just a pure entertainment standpoint. Like, it doesn't really get much. Like, you can't ask for anything more. Like, bro, you want action, you want people just getting slapped around and beat up and coming back and dropping the other dude, and then they're just going seesaw back and forth. Like, it doesn't get much better. And it was an incredible trilogy. But the second fight was just like, bro, these 2 dudes are really just, they both want it. Dudes, they're really going after it. And it is one of those fights that you can watch anytime, and it's always always fun. Josh Thompson, another guy who I think probably because I guess you could say like he never won the big fight. I feel like was kind of like underappreciated, but he was a really talented lightweight. He just never had the big moment. Well, he did KO Nate Diaz, which was kind of wild. I'll never forget that either. But nah, man, this was just an amazing back and forth. Just like I said, from a pure action standpoint, bro, I was just watching this fight. Like, Gilbert Melendez was one of my favorite fighters back then. But I'm just watching this fight like, bro, at this point, I don't know if I care who wins. Like, I'm just enjoying. That's one of those fights where you stop scoring and you just kind of get lost in the moment. And you just appreciate just what you're watching. One of the best wars ever. One of the best fights ever. One of the best fights, not just in Strikeforce history, but in MMA in general. If you have not watched the Melendez-Thompson trilogy, go hit up Fight Pass or do your Googles, whatever you got to do. But that second one, man, incredible fight. Incredible. I can't say enough good things. Pure action, man. Loved it. Loved every second of it. So that's my number 3, Gilbert Melendez versus Josh Thompson 2.
Okay. You know what? I don't know what your number 1 is, but I'm gonna take a guess. So I'm gonna cut you off. I don't know. Wait, no, it was your
my
number
number 1
3.
might surprise you.
It was your number 3 that you just did, right? All right,
Yes.
so I'm gonna cut you off before, because I'm pretty sure you don't have my number 2 on there. So I'm gonna just skip to my actual number 1, which is my favorite fight of all time, which I think I've mentioned previously out here before. And it's Robbie Lawler and Roy McDonald, the rematch, which is in my eyes is the best MMA fight of all time.
I think my number 1 is gonna surprise you, but no, that's a great pick. That's a great pick.
So I don't like. I'm sure anybody who's listening to this podcast has seen this fight. You don't need me rehashing everything. I'm going to talk about champion playing it out late. Robbie Lawler was down 3 rounds to 1 when in that heading into that 5th round when he knocked out Rory McDonald, and it's what's the UFC series on YouTube? They call it the Thrill and Agony.
I think so, yeah.
I can't think of any other fight that exemplifies that mindset more than Rory McDonald and Robbie Lawler too, because like Canada is like fiending for another champion. Rory has been GSP's heir apparent for the entirety of his career. He is up 3 rounds to 1 against the current champion. And he is taking a pounding. He's winning, but at the same time it's like, okay, this fight can still go either way. You're obviously not physically all there at the beginning of the 5th round, and oh my god, that moment where he gets hit and his body, like you can tell in his eyes he wants to keep going, but his body just will not let him, and it just quits on him.
Yeah,
that
was the one time where like we always hear the phrase "he left it all in there." That fight was literally that. Like when he took that last jab, because he didn't get knocked out by anything that was like crazy. Like it wasn't like no wing and overhand right. Like it just looked like that last punch just took. Like his soul was like, we're done. We can't. I tried to keep pushing, and I can't.
The closest thing I can think of is that jab that Gaethje landed on Ferguson to end that fight. But even there, It's like Ferguson was still trying to shake the stars out. Like Rory McDonald's body just quit on him.
Yeah.
And he was never the same again after that. Same with Robbie Lawler. Um, like I I have trouble verbalizing like that fight in a way that's meaningful, just because it's just so like that's film level of like
Yeah.
drama and like heartache and like agony and thrill. Because I'm a Robbie Lawler fan. Like I was ecstatic when he won. I picked him in their first fight, and I picked him in the rematch, which was a pretty not unpopular, but like I want to say Rory McDonald Cole is the favorite.
Yeah, no, Roy had a lot of steam. Like, I think a lot of people were really set on him becoming like the guy. Like he was gonna reach that mountaintop.
And like this was the best Rory McDonald performance in my eyes. Like he was sharp. It was not like he was just in there pitter pattering with him. He was putting it on Lawler. Like absolutely 100%. Like he came to win the title. But like there's no other fighter like Robbie Lawler. He just breaks guys. Like win or lose, he breaks other fighters.
He still, to me, has one of the best. Like when you look at, I can't even just say MMA in sports in general. Like an athlete who just had like a resurgence. Cause bro, when he was good in Strikeforce, but he lost some fights that kind of made you like, like. And then dude came to the UFC and he took it to another level. I mean, low key, the fights with Hendricks were classics too. I feel like they don't get mentioned because people don't like Johnny Hendricks.
Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But
right.
yeah, no. Lawler, McDonald is just like that's such a high bar for any fight in my eyes to clear. Like both guys displayed what made them special in that fight, and it's a shame that like after reaching such a such a peak, like both of them decayed really quick after that. Like we could, I mentioned that I thought the fight took away both of their primes, and somebody mentioned that the Carlos Condit fight afterwards for Robbie. I was like, no, like you could see the you can see that the shine was off even in that fight, like for both guys, but especially for Robbie. Like he was just not moving the same after that. And who could blame him? Who could blame him?
Yeah, that's like I said, one of them fights that you're beating years off of your career. Like that's the price of putting on a fight that good. Is like, bro, that's a solid 5 years of your career that you just got knocked out of you. But nah, great pick. That's an incredible. Yeah, see, fights like that are making me realize like why these lists. Like I said, we're kind of just doing this for fun, but like fights like that highlight why this list is like impossible to make. There are just so many great fights that it's like it's impossible to rank these like seriously and have like a definitive, top 10 or whatever. But nah, great pick, man. Great pick. So we had number two. This was my number one for a while. But my number 2 pick, like my number 3, I wasn't emotionally attached to this fight. This was a pure entertainment thing, and boy, did it deliver for me. Number 2 favorite fight of all time, Nick Diaz versus Paul Daly. I remember when this fight got announced, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be violence. I don't know how long it's going to last, but it's going to be violence. And the fight went the exact way I thought it was. We just going to throw hands, and one of us ain't going to make it. And that's what happened. Like, I don't really have a lot to say about the fight. It was like, bro, if you know Nick Diaz and you know Paul Daly, like, you know what they're about. Like, two dudes, they not coming to play. We not coming to get 5-round decisions. We fighting. Like, we fight. I'm trying to take you out. And they just went in there and just had one of the funnest 1-round fights I've ever watched. Just both rocked each other, both knocked each other down. I had a blast watching this fight. I've watched this fight so many times. It is just, like I said, it's a quick watch, only like 1 round. One of those fights I was so hyped for because I knew like the possible entertainment value. And when I watched it, and it was everything I hoped it would be and more. Like I said, I don't really have a lot to say about that fight. It was pure entertainment from opening bell until the stoppage. Just pure entertainment. I can watch this fight anytime, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this was like a thing that happened. And it brings me so much joy to just watch that. That nice 1 round violence to me is just special. When the fight don't even got to go all around, it's just we gonna slug it out for one, and somebody gonna make it, and one of us won't. So that is my number 2 fight: Nick Diaz versus Paul Daly.
All right, my number 1, which is just my number 1 is another Robbie Lawler fight. As I subtly alluded to earlier, is the first match between him and Johnny Hendricks, which is my in terms of just straight up like striking, it's one of my favorite fights aesthetically, just because we don't get these type of like pocket boxing matches in MMA anymore, or at all actually. Like a lot of times, like guys will throw strikes from like 20 feet apart. Like I was really like one of the few dudes who actually still like follows the style of fighting, Petr Yan, which is why I like him so much. Like it's not just like we're gonna bang in the phone booth. It's like, oh, this is some like slick inside pocket boxing. This is some really great dirty boxing in terms of like Johnny Hendricks. This was stuff I was like really hoping to see him use throughout the duration of his like title reign, which lasted all of one fight, because he like sometime in the 3rd round of his second fight with Lawler, he just fell apart and decided he wanted to be a wrestler again. But yeah, no, this was just like, I don't think we're gonna get another fight like it, is my point. It's just really great stuff from both guys. Really innovative. Really just special stuff. And like I said, it's a shame Johnny Hendricks' career never panned out, or didn't pan out the way we were all hoping it would.
Yeah, was it? Did he? Yeah, could you say that was like his?
That was his last. He started off the second fight really good, and after that, I think he beat Matt Brown, but like it was a pure wrestling match from him. But like after that, it was a pretty sharp fall off. Like I want to say that's not too long after that they got knocked out by Wonder Boy.
Yeah. It's funny. Yeah, I feel like because every time people mention Robbie, they go to the Roy, and I feel like they forget about the Hendrick. Like, and like all of them were pretty. Like they were all good. They were all really good fights. Shout out to Robbie Lawler, man. Like, Robbie really came to the UFC and gave us some of the best. Like, he gave us some of the best moments in fights that we're ever gonna see. Not the same guy anymore, but like he really delivered. God appreciate that guy. All right. So to close it out, my number 1 favorite fight of all time. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this one. I might have mentioned this once, maybe in passing. Ironically enough, it's the only boxing fight on my list. Number 1 favorite fight of all time. Rest in peace. Diego Corrales versus Jose Luis Castillo. The first one. Man, you talk about movie, like like movie moments. Like this fight was spend the whole fight, well, most of it up until that legendary 10th round, back and forth, slugging it out. Like, we meeting in the phone booth, we getting close, we just, it was just amazing back and forth for like those first 9 rounds. Either nobody wants to fold, nobody wants to give up ground. It was just like, I was just watching this fight like in awe. Like, bruh, I don't know who's going to lose, because neither one of these guys seem like they're trying to give up an inch. And then we get to the 10th round, and this is the most movie thing I've ever seen. Castillo drops Corrales. I think he knocked his mouthpiece out. Corrales goes to his corner, and his cornerman tells him, not an elaborate speech, nothing crazy. I don't remember word for word, but just kind of paraphrasing. He basically told him, like, dude, you have to get a knockout now. Like, oh no, they deducted a point, I think, right? That's what happened. He got dropped in the 10th, and then they deducted a point because he kept spitting his mouthpiece out. That had happened like a couple times in that fight. And when he went to his corner, the corner's like, bro, you have to get a knockout now. Like, you have to get a knockout. Keep in mind, the man just got dropped like not too long ago, and comes back after getting dropped and getting a point deducted. Got dropped twice, I think. Something crazy. Comes back after his cornerman gives him that little mini pep talk that was all of like 4 words. Comes back, takes some initial hits because he didn't start winning right after the break. Took a couple hits, got backed up against the ropes, refused to go away, fought his way, just fought his way out, tagged Castillo, I want to say, with like a left, and that was kind of the beginning of the end. You could see Castillo like kind of start to fade a little bit. Corrales like just digs in, and whatever little bit of energy he had left, man, he catches Castillo kind of back against the ropes. You can see Castillo getting a little winded, and then Corrales just starts teeing off on him. And he just 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then the ref comes in and stops. And my mind, when I saw that, I was like, oh my, I couldn't comprehend what I just watched. I was like, bro, that is a movie moment. If you can't write it out better than that. Like, Corrales was literally backed in the corner to where, like, if you don't get a knockout, you are going to lose this fight. Like, no questions, you are going to lose. And bro, you talk about clutch. Like, he dug somewhere real deep and pulled that out. That is the most. I still get chills watching that fight. Like, I can't believe that was a thing. Like, that to me is amazing. There's no other fight really that has ever made me feel that way watching it. And just to see like just the way it ended, that 10th round was just like, bro, this is literally something out of a movie. So yeah, my number 1 fight, rest in peace to Diego Corrales. Diego Corrales versus Jose Luis Castillo 1. It is my all-time favorite fight.
Hey.
And yay. Boom. That is it. It would be such a thing that our last episode is 3 hours.
Let's look at the time. Whoa.
Oh man, yeah. It would be a thing that we go 3 hours for the last episode. But hey man, that is it. This is the end of our Dojo Talk podcast journey. 174 episodes, and like I said, there are a few fights that may drag us out of retirement and get us back on these microphones if Takaru and Tension decide they or if K1 ever, whatever that situation is, if that ever gets straightened out, be back up here, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, get their situation squared out. Be back up here. John Jones loses. We can come over here and just say we told you so. But nah, man. For now, this is the last episode. It's been a fun 3 years, great 3-year run. Thanks to all the listeners, everybody who's let me save the thanks. Because we still got to do the parting shots if we have any, and shout outs. I'll save it all for that. For the last time, Anticool, do you have any parting shots and shout outs?
I got shots for all the bootlicker MMA fans out there.
Uh-oh.
And oh shit, a chair. So Jones tweeted out earlier this week that he was in negotiations with the UFC for the Francis Ngannou fight. And then basically like 20-30 minutes later, he tweeted out something along the lines of, "I can't believe this," and then tweeted out his side of the story being the UFC refused to budge on paying him more base salary for moving up to heavyweight and fighting in Francis Ngannou. Now, this is all Jones's claims or whatever, and Jones is not the most reliable person in the world. But to see all these so-called fans, all these people who claim that they want like a fighters union and fighters to be paid more, basically just hop on the side of the UFC and say John Jones doesn't deserve so-and-so for moving up to heavyweight or fighting Francis Ngannou or whatever. Y'all are absolutely fucking insane. Absolutely insane. Like, John Jones does not get paid anywhere near what he's worth to fight. I've been pretty open about my not liking of John Jones. But like $500,000 for like some of the fights that he's had is nothing. It's a pittance. Like, I want to say it was on Reddit. Somebody brought up that Mikey Garcia got paid $7 million for his fight with Vargas earlier this year, or was it last year? I don't remember. And somebody was like, why can so and so Golden Boy or whoever it was that put on the fight pay $7 million for Vargas, but the UFC can't pay John Jones uncomparable? And then the people in the comments were like, well, fucking all the undercard fighters on boxing cards get paid like $1,000 or $500, and it's not fair. Well, I did some quick math. You want to guess what the payout was for UFC 249?
I'm gonna say like 1.5 mil.
No. Collectively, all the fighters who fought on UFC 249 made about $3.5 million.
All right, so up by 2.
That is half of what Mikey Garcia made. Now, Mikey Garcia's fight obviously wasn't even on pay-per-view. It was on The Zone. Was it on ESPN? I don't remember. Point being, it was on pay-per-view, right? So, and this UFC 249 was kind of unequally stacked. It had 2 title fights. It had a bunch of former champions and Verdum and Pettis and Carlos Esparza on the undercard who were making 6 figures. Those spots normally aren't like, if you're fighting on the prelims, you're probably not making 6 figures most of the time. They had Greg Hardy's inflated ass contract. Apparently, he makes like $180,000 a fight. Go figure. So like these numbers are up from what I'm saying, from your typical UFC venue. But they still got millions of dollars to have the fight on ESPN, and plus they basically had a base payout of like 400 million pay-per-view buys because that's what ESPN pays them. So to hear people turn around and be like, John Jones doesn't deserve more money for Francis Ngannou, a fight that would undoubtedly do like big ass numbers, is insane. And you people are bootlickers. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is the reason. This is the reason the sport will not attract the number of like top level athletes that we would like it to.
No, they're gonna
There's
go
no-
box because they're gonna figure out real soon that they can make more money, fucking fighting, being the B side to a Mikey Garcia or Errol Spence than they could fighting in the UFC as a champion.
Right. Yeah, there's not a lot of financial incentive.
And like I saw the argument that the UFC didn't want to make the fight, so they didn't pay them. Well, the UFC didn't want to make a very popular fight that would have had a very high payout just because they didn't want to pay their fighters more. Two fighters who openly stated they wanted to fight each other and came to the negotiation table. So like, with the monopoly on like the matchmaking elements of the sport, like the UFC has all the leverage in contract negotiations because none of their information is public. You don't know how much your pay-per-view is making. You don't know how much like advertising money is being put into your cards. So like if you are getting a pay-per-view bonus, like what does that even mean if the UFC is not advertising? You know what I mean?
Right.
So like you don't know any of these factors when you sit down to negotiate your contract. So like to sit here and say that like, excuse me, they don't deserve this certain amount of money is kind of insane to me. Everybody everybody at UFC 249 could have been paid double what they actually got paid, and the UFC still would have made money hand over fist. Hand over fist. So, I don't know. So, first shot, all the bootlicking fans, because y'all the reason DJ is now fighting in one championship, and GSP retired from the sport.
Y'all gotta live with that.
Yep. Yep.
Gotta live with that.
Yep. So, yeah. So, shots at them. Do I have a shout out? You know what? Shout out to Mickey Ward. I don't know if you heard the news, but apparently Mickey Ward is showing symptoms of CTE. Yeah, no. This was back in February. I just saw the article posted on our boxing this morning. According to the article, Ward gets severe headaches about 5 days a week, sometimes waking him up at night. It's terrible. It makes you nauseous. It's like a thump in the back of your head. You feel drained all day. More symptoms from chronic traumatic and CTE started in 2005, about 2 years after he retired from a wildly successful career that ended in 27 knockouts. Ward is working with the Concussion Legacy Foundation to urge patients to wait to enroll their children in tackle football or other contact sports until they're at least 14 years old. The PSA he's promoting as parents, if you wouldn't let your child box, why would you let them play tackle football? Which is a fair question, because tackle football probably way worse, if we're being honest. But
yeah, especially because I feel like nowadays they don't even teach proper form anymore. So dudes are just running into each other. Like, yeah, that sucks, man. That really sucks.
Yeah. So there's a thing we'll eventually have to deal with in MMA when guys are old enough to
start shows. I mean, we already know people are showing symptoms. What's the name of the Bellator kid who died? 25-year-old Jordan Parsons.
Yeah.
When they did send his brain off to be scanned, and it turned out he had CTE, and he was only like a couple years into his career.
Jesus.
Yeah. So if this is gonna be our last show, I feel like that's something we gotta hammer home with these people. Just this is a thing. Be prepared. And start is trying to institute some change going forward.
That's what we always on here, man. I mean, you understand it's a blood sport. People are gonna get hurt, but you want to at least try to minimize it as much as you can. Yeah, well wishes to him. That's gotta suck. I don't really have any shots. Keep it peaceful on the last episode. I'm gonna leave y'all alone. Shout outs, not a shout out, more so a rest in peace acknowledgement. Rest in peace to former NBA coach, longtime Utah Jazz coach Jerry Sloan, who passed away. I don't know what day it was, but he was 78 years old. He had complications of Parkinson's and dementia. He was the fourth, I think I think fourth time. Yep, Sloan. And all of those, in 23 seasons, he only finished below 500. In one of those years, he won 1,221 games in his career, the fourth highest total in NBA history. So, legendary NBA coach. Rest in peace to Jerry Sloan. When I was younger, John Stockton was one of my favorite players. So I watched the Utah Jazz a bit when I was younger. So rest in peace to Jerry Sloan. My last shout out, man. Shout out to you guys, everybody who's been listening, watched or listened, shared the podcast. It's been a fun 3 years. Shout outs to our adjacent podcast roommates, Stokes and Joey, who we've dragged in here repeatedly, against their will or willingly. I don't know, but they came. we got them on here. It's been a fun 3-year ride. Thank you, the Anti-Cool, for accompanying me on this journey. It was an easy start. I still remember, like, I just asked you, like, hey, I'm going to start a podcast. You want to talk? It's like, yeah. It just became a thing. So, yeah, thank you for accompanying me on this journey. And like I said, to you guys,
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
It was an honor when you asked me to join. It's been just it's been fun riding this amazing wacky world of
right.
mixed martial arts and combat sports with you.
But don't get too sad, guys. We ain't completely done. While the podcast might be ending, I do still plan. I haven't done one in a couple weeks, but I still do plan on doing some Dojo Talk fight nights on my Twitch page. So I got to get back to doing those. So if you follow me on Tumblr, on Twitter, just keep note. I'll try to keep making those a thing. I want to do a movie one. I'm going to do movie fights one day. Just got to sit down and get playlists together. But still going to do those fights. So we're still around, man. We're still around on social media.
Yeah, I'm
still
on Tumblr. Yeah. I'm still on Twitter.
Yeah. We're both still on Tumblr, both still on Twitter. So we're not hard to get in contact with, and still definitely be talking about fights in the in the social media sphere, so to speak. But yeah, podcast, man. We're gonna close it out on this 174th episode. If those choice fights happen that we want to see really bad happen, we'll pop back on here. But for now, that is going to be it. So this is the finale. This has been the Dojo Talk Podcast. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate you. You guys be safe out there. Be clean. Wash your hands. All that good stuff. So that's it, man. And as always, we got to switch the slogan up a little bit, man. Anytime people are being punched and or kicked in the face, we will be there in spirit. And we will see you guys around. Peace.